On this episode of the Star Wars Time Show, Matt and Nick are trying something new, so great chance the show will catch on fire, tech-wise at least. And the new thing, you may ask? Well, they're bringing the talented Blainerthings on for a chat, and Matt is even letting Nick participate. So like I said, expect some sort of tech snafu. It's the Star Wars Time Show after all. Once the duo are done talking with Blaine, they will move into the latest Star Wars topics worth discussing, such as the reveal that K2 will not be in Andor S1, a KOTOR game rumored to be in development, a new Skywalker biography, and of course, some new collectibles to blow your credits on. They'll wrap with this week's fan question of the week, which asks fans about what type of KOTOR game they want. And then they'll close things out with the latest round of our top 5 fan artist features of the week. Punch it, Chewie. Hey now everybody, welcome back to the Star Wars Time Show, and no, you are not on drugs. You are seeing a completely new setup. That's right, we're not even doing the damn tech test. We're going live, right? Just like our buddy Bill said, fuck it, we'll do it live. No, in all seriousness, no, we're doing something we've never done at the Star Wars Time Show, and that is trying to interview someone while Nick is still on the stream. I wasn't kicked
That's
off.
Right.
I usually lock him up in his GIMP box and don't let him out when I'm talking to other people because I don't want him to, rub them the wrong way, as we like to say. But we decided to try something new for our special guest, as you can see over there. I guess to my right or left, I can never figure this out when we're looking at stuff streaming. It's none other than Blainerthings from Instagram. Yay! Everybody, welcome to the show. Welcome. We've been talking about getting back to doing interviews for a while now. And we haven't done that because for the most part, we're lazy assholes. It takes extra effort. You got to track them down. You got to come to an agreed upon date, all that fun stuff. But we did add Spencer Barron to the site officially last week. He's become our quasi PR person, if you will.
He is quasi, no longer quasi. He is PR
I guess
man.
He is on the site, so he is somewhat official. I mean, shit, the guy even hunted down the dude you hired in that forced child labor camp to create a logo for himself to match ours.
Yeah. I sent him the guy's info, so his name is, I think it's Andrew.
Alex,
and,
dick.
He got his own, Alex. I knew it started with an A. And he's got his own little chibi version of himself, the same as us two. So he is as official as he's going to get.
Right. So watch out.
If
Spencer shows up in your DMs, that means we have you in our sights. Exactly. You are one of our bounties. We want to talk to you. And shit, Nick, what was it? 2 years ago, we're like, hey, we always dedicate a segment of the show to toy photography, in particular Star Wars artists. It could be the real-ass painters, the digital artists, the toy photographers. It doesn't matter. If you want to sculpt a Jabba the Hutt out of a pile of shit, if you tag us, we may talk about it.
That's very true.
We were like, you know what? Let's bring the community onto the show. We'll do interviews with them. We started with Sir Dork, and then we quit. we just fucking stopped. We stopped because all these other accounts started doing interviews with toy photographers, and like I said, we just got lazy. And not that our interviews have ever just been about the hobby. Yeah, we all like the hobby, but this is the damn Star Wars Time Show after all. We like to kind of learn a bit more about these creators, their background, their love of Star Wars, and how it may have impacted what they do today. So that's what we're going to do with Blaine today. We're going to figure out who is Blaine as a Star Wars fan. Because if you're like me and you follow him on Instagram at Blainerthings again, you have a great idea who Blaine is as a person. He's someone that I love as a person. One of my favorite things to do every time I open up Instagram is to look at the top and see if Blainerthings has a circle around his story, meaning he's posted new content, which means I'm going to get to see him bust some dumbass's face, right? He releases the Krakens, as you call it, right, Blaine?
I do. What I can.
But really, Blaine is just someone that I personally, he brings me much joy with his content, be it what he creates for his posts or more recently with how he's tackled the morons of the world in his stories. I'm not kidding around. I literally look forward to it. There's a few accounts on Instagram that I personally love looking at their stories. It's you. It was Ivutu. He calls people out. Plastic Action will do some of the call outs. Jason B. Michael. It's fun stuff. So I'm glad you're on the show. We're going to learn a bit more about the Blainerthings. All right.
Awesome. Glad to be here.
So, I mean, yeah, it is Star Wars, right? This is a Star Wars show, so we are going to focus on that. But anyone that follows Blaine, if you're not, go check him out. One of his most recent posts has exploded. Hell, fuck it. I'm just going to bring it up on the screen right now. We've got one of his Thrawns, but the post I'm talking about has got him a little notoriety these days.
Let the haters commence.
And Nick, I don't know if you've seen this thing, but it is amazing. It's up to almost 15,000 likes at this point in time. I got it on the live stream right now, but this is Blaine kind of commemorating the end of the Fuhrer's reign last week with a good old Scooby-Doo caption, zoinks, as he has Captain America unmasking Red Skull, who has been wearing Trump's face for the past 4 years.
It's beautiful. This is a beautiful piece
and
here.
Thank you.
This post in particular, Blaine, generated some fantastic story content of people leaving comments on your art and telling you, you know, how dumb you are and all this other shit. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, Blaine is great for creating art that starts conversations, and sometimes those conversations involve morons, and all the time those conversations involve Blaine correcting those morons. So that's one of the reasons why I love this guy. But more importantly, and we'll kind of get things back on track here with his Star Wars stuff, he's also a very talented creator. I mean, he does the toy photography, but as you can see on the stream here, he's also what I'd call a concept artist. Is that fair to say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to talk about how did he get here? What motivated him in life to just sit down one day on his iPad Pro and concept out what Benedict Cumberbatch could look like as Grand Admiral Thrawn? And I'm with you. I definitely see Benny playing Thrawn. Who knows? I mean, I'm sure we'll get to casting at some point in time. But before we get into that, let's learn a little bit more about @Blainerthings, aka Blaine. I don't know if you share your last name, but we'll just say it starts with an R, just in case.
It starts with an
People
R.
couldn't figure that out. All right, Blaine. So let's get down to it. Are you someone like a lot of us Star Wars fans? I mean, is it something that has been with you from birth? I mean, have you always been a Star Wars fan, or is it something like my co-host down here that, you know, he kind of came to appreciate it and recognize the franchise late in his life at like 10 years old?
Late, yes.
No, it's definitely been since birth. I was born about a month before Return of the Jedi came out. And my parents were actually so pissed that they had to have a baby during Return of the Jedi.
Awesome.
So I mean, from day one, huge Star Wars fan. Just the imagination that went into it, I think, kind of grabs any kid.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, I kind of explain it to Nick, and then there's a part of me that kind of also appreciates people like Nick to come into it later in life, because they actually, you know, they can tell a better story of like, oh, I remember I was at a friend's house, we did this, we saw Luke, and it was like, ah! But for people like you and me, it's almost, It's almost like an osmosis transference from our parents to us. Like you,
Yeah.
I'm also a child of the 80s. I was born during Empire Strikes Back, and my parents actually went and viewed it while I was a fetus in my mother's gut. So that's the first Star Wars movie I ever saw, by the way, was Empire in the theaters. I at least heard it through with an amniotic sac.
Yes.
All right. So basically, it's just been programmed into you since the dawn of time, or at least the dawn of Blaine, correct?
Yeah, definitely. And oddly enough, I've actually always had more of a tie to the toy lines than I did to the movies. I was introduced to the toys before the movies, my parents being, not letting me watch it till I was like 6 or 7. I had my dad's Star Wars toys, which became my Star Wars toys. So that, oddly enough, since we're talking about toy photography, Star Wars toys were really my first kind of head dive.
All right, I mean that's kind of where I was going. Is like, what kind of started it and ultimately led to this. So like a lot of us, it was getting those little 1, 2, 3, 4 points of articulation Kenner figures. Right?
Yep.
Would you also say then that your parents are somewhat directly responsible for the Star Wars fandom as well?
Absolutely. And for the toy collecting, my dad was a huge nerd and, had action figures everywhere, played Dungeons and Dragons. And then my mom, her obsessive compulsive disorder to need to complete an entire collection of something.
Oh boy. You were
perfect storm.
Oh my goodness. That is awesome. So yeah, I mean, that's, we do. I mean, obviously, a lot of us we are shaped by our parents, whether we like it or not. But I get that. I mean, my dad wasn't like hardcore nerd, but hardcore collector. I mean, this guy would go to KB Toys and buy the discounted Waterworld figures just because it was Waterworld and they were on sale. You know what I mean? So
they're amazing.
Yeah, no, collecting, it does. It seems, and Nick, again, is someone that doesn't have the collecting OCD. He doesn't quite understand that pull of forking out thousands of dollars a year to pay homage to the plastic crack gods. But
I'm not there yet. Matt has been slowly trying to convert me over time. And like every now and then I'll see something, first it could be like a statue, so I don't have to do anything with it. It just sits there. I don't need to pose it or move it or make the arms go up and down. I can just place it somewhere and it looks cool. But for me, my sense of collecting is all around, like, I guess you could call them props. I have a lot of lightsabers. I think I have 5 lightsabers. And that's kind of where my focus is now. So I tried to get the Revan lightsaber when it released, but Amazon screwed me over. It was a very famous part of our show, the trials of me not getting my Revan saber. But every now and then I'll see one of these like Hot Toys figures, or I'll see one of these, incredible sideshow Mythos figures, and I'm like, holy shit, like maybe I can snag one and then just stop there. But knowing Matt for as long as I have, and knowing how the addiction seeps into your very soul, I know that it can't just stop at one. So I just don't try it. I
mean, I have 50 stormtroopers sitting behind me. It cannot. It's like a box of Pringles.
Yeah, I mean, Blaine's got it pretty bad, because I mean, his isn't reserved just to Star Wars. I mean, this guy is a pop culture of all kind collectors. It makes sense that he was born in '83 because he also likes a lot of the '80s cartoon stuff, the Thundercats. I don't know if you're a Silverhawk guy, Mask, all that shit from when we were little kids. Great toys where the cartoons only lasted maybe a season or 2, but you still got good toys out of it. But again, if you go to Blaine's Instagram, at Blainerthings, the guy, I think, was at least once a week you do a new toy haul video. Before some shithead blocked you or reported you for having liberal values, you also would do at least a weekly live stream, either talking to other collectors, people in the industry, or just showing off new toys, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he
And that was really important to. I'm very fortunate enough to have friends within the industry, and like you, I wanted to try to highlight what goes on behind the scenes, and I chose to do that through industry professionals. So, yeah,
it's like
someday.
I said. I mean, again, we still have plenty to talk about, but at Blainerthings on Instagram, lots of good content. You're going to get something every day, either in story form where you might laugh or be like, "Fuck yeah, give it to him, Blaine," or you'll see one of his creations and go, "Holy shit, how did he do that?" So check him out at Blainerthings. All right, back to Star Wars. Blaine, favorite film or trilogy? Is there one of the movies that are just like, that's it, that's what I hang my hat on, this movie for life, or a trilogy?
I mean, I'm definitely a fan of the original trilogy, bar none. It's above the rest. Cinematically, and I know that I have a lot of people that disagree with me, but for very specific reasons, my favorite film has become Rogue One. And that's really, and like I say cinematically, I would say by way of trilogies and fitting within a story, Empire Strikes Back.
All right.
Okay.
I have to tell you, everyone I've asked that question goes to Rogue One.
Yeah.
But if you listen to the Star Wars fandom, Disney is nothing but a communist regime that killed Star Wars. Yet,
apparently I'm a communist.
Everyone loves Rogue One and everyone loves The Mandalorian. It's weird how Star Wars fans pick and choose, but you know what I mean? They're an angry group. No, I mean I'm with you. Rogue One is a very well done movie. It doesn't cheat. Well, it cheats a little bit at the end. It brings in some of the big boys and girls, but for the most part, you don't have the magic, right? No space wizards. It's just the rough and tumble ragtag rebels doing their thing and making the ultimate sacrifice. And it is a well done movie. If you had to pick trilogy, I think you tipped your hat there. I mean, it's the OT.
Yeah, oh, definitely,
right.
Hands
or
down.
whatever they call it these days. Nick, what's the official designation that they've changed it to?
I think that's the one that they still left to Age of the Rebellion, and then within that you have the Rise of the Empire.
There's like 5 eras now that have various names and whatnot. So we
yeah,
and yet it all revolves around 3 people.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. The Trinity, but there, for me, I don't know if you ever felt like this. Did you feel like with Solo, Rogue One, and then potentially some of the cartoon series that you had a post prequel to the original trilogy? A lot of people have been calling that out recently.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that as a conceptual artist, I will never knock George Lucas because he's probably one of the most influential conceptual artists in my life, and probably one of the greatest conceptual, I don't want to say artists because he doesn't draw them, but designers of our time. So I will not knock him in that regard, but I think that we are getting these prequels because Disney realizes that Lucas shouldn't have been at every helm.
We've gone over, like, we've essentially written a dissertation orally about George and the prequels, and it's kind of where you're at, Blaine. Love the guy. He is the maker. This dude literally created this universe in his mind. As Blaine said, he's a visionary. I mean, created all these characters, the languages, the environments. I mean, it's all stuff that was spinning around in his gray matter that he barfed out, and conceptual artists would make it come to life. But as I've put out there, the prequels, they're a little rough in terms of the content. He's not the best director. He's not great with actors. He's sometimes not even the best at writing dialogue. And it does. I'm not saying Disney's doing a full-on course correction, but as I've said, watching what they did with the Clone Wars finish, seeing what they're doing with Rebels and Solo and Rogue One, I'm not saying they're kind of paving over the prequels, but they are bolstering what the prequels were trying to tell. They're fleshing out Anakin's turn in particular much better. They're bringing more life and character to the Clone Wars and having the named clones. But yeah, I mean, we're not huge fans of the prequels. I've gotten over my hate for it because I realized I was sounding just like those other jerk-offs that were ready to burn down Disney over TLJ and Tross. It's like, hey, if you like it, you like it. Who gives a shit? It shouldn't bother me. The only thing that bothers me are the people that start throwing out the, well, it's because of women or you're people of color or Kathleen Kennedy is a commie, feminist. It's like, no. Stop all that type of shit. You like it or you don't like it for certain reasons, but who gives a fuck if someone else likes it? We need to get back to respecting what opinions mean. They're not fact. They're opinions. Yes. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's okay.
And I think, you kind of hit the head or the nail right on the head. I don't know animals. The prequels, I don't mind the prequels because they're the foundation of, and that's all they are. They're foundation. What the Clone Wars and Rebels and Solo and Rogue One were able to do was add meat to the bone.
Oh yeah.
The prequels are just bare bones. There's nothing to them. There's no substance. I love the Clone Wars, and I tell people that the Clone Wars makes the prequels bearable for me. I can go back and watch Episode 2 knowing that that's just the foundation for the groundwork for the Clone
that's
Wars.
The shit you have to get through to see all the good stuff take place. And see, I was to say it wasn't even. I mean, Attack of the Clones is always the turd of the group, but it's become funny. I mean, it's like B-movie entertaining at this point. And my little daughter loves to throw it on. It's lots of visuals and flashy lights. So we've watched it, but I had the biggest hard-on for Revenge of the Sith. I hated it. I thought it totally discounted the character of Anakin Skywalker. It did not show a proper turn to the dark side. It was like, oh, hey, I'm going to do the right thing, and fuck it. No, I'm not. It's like, no. But the Clone Wars, seeing, him leave Ahsoka, and then Ahsoka couldn't talk to him, and then Ahsoka feeling his turn, it has made Revenge of the Sith more palatable for me. It's not so much of a bummer like, this could have been so much better, because now I'm like, hey, fuck it. I know what's going on in the Clone Wars, and that makes Hayden and everyone A-okay, in my opinion. So, all right, man, let's stick with favorites. Blaine, is there a character that it's like, that is my guy, my girl, or my alien?
Yeah, and I think it might be a little cliche to say, but I mean, you look at everything from the OG up until, honestly, even with what they were able to do with Rise of Skywalker, and Leia is just, she's up there with, I just love badass bitches. She's the Sarah Connor and the Ellen Ripley of the Star Wars universe. She was the damsel in distress that once they saved her was like, give me a fucking gun and I'll show you how it's done.
You two bozos, I will get us out of here.
Yep. And the way that they pulled that through all the way till the end, it was just...
I have to say that she's probably the most underappreciated character in the entirety of the franchise as well. Because, like you said, without Leia, you don't get the formation of the rebellion. You don't get the formation of the resistance even, later into the sequel trilogy. And you don't get a lot of these incredible moments that most people will sit there and quote through Star Wars. You don't get the I love you, I know. You don't get the,
get that walking carpet
jump
out
down
of my
the
way.
chute. Yeah, jump down the chute, fly boy. Like shit like that just doesn't happen. And the dynamic between... Yeah, the dynamic between those three characters is really driven by Leia and her portrayal from Carrie Fisher. Yeah. So, I mean, that is fantastic, fantastic answer.
It really is. I mean, it's like we always are going to wonder what would have the sequel trilogy have been if she made it.
Right.
I mean, TLJ's TLJ. I have a question for you. Maybe we'll get into that down the road. But Carrie passing was the true death nail to that sequel trilogy. I mean, when you just remove that character from the sandbox and you have a whole other movie to tell where she was planned to be the big oldie character. There was no way to recover from that, and I think that speaks to what Blaine is saying: the power of the princess, or the general before she passed. But Princess Leia for life. That's right where my daughter went to. I even gave my daughter the middle name Rey. She's like, fuck Rey. I am a Princess Leia fan. I'm like, sorry, Charlie. In 2016, when you were born, TFA, everyone had like great feelings about it. We were all ready to see where these characters went, and then it's just kind of like, didn't quite end up the way we all kind of imagined in 2015 when the credits rolled for episode 7. But oh well. We're here. We're still alive. It is just a science fiction universe after all.
What?
Sorry.
Right? Some people don't think that.
Sorry. So Blaine, for you, is there a moment in the franchise that, just kind of stands out to you? It could be anything. It could be the cartoons, books, not that I like books, but I mean, if you read books, comics, movies, is there a moment that you're like, this is Star Wars. This is why I love it. This is why I keep coming back for more.
I think, and this is probably with most people, at least most people who kind of gravitate towards the original trilogy, keeping with that whole theme of Leia. I think the first thing that always pops into my head when someone says Star Wars is that scene in the carbonite chamber with the I love you, I know, and she's holding Chewie, Chewie's holding her, 3PO's on the back end. We've got Boba Fett, we've got Vader, we've got Han going down. It's just utterly iconic. The blue and red lighting, that would be the moment for me.
Oh, yeah,
if I needed to introduce Star Wars to anyone, I'd show them that scene and they'd be like, how did they get there? And what happens next?
Well, we've got 2 hours of content to show you. So, no, I mean, yeah. Empire's always up there. I think my go-to, I've said it 1,000 times on here, I'll probably get tomatoes thrown at me, but it's the fight between father and son in Return of the Jedi. That's, to this day, if I'm in the right mood, I'm crying. I'm getting emotional.
Oh, it's great.
I don't know if it's like
great.
It's probably deep rooted shit with my own father. I'm sure Blaine understands this, but you know how like music can stir emotions in some people.
Yeah. Star
Wars scenes and Williams' score that accompanies those scenes can get me going. I mean, I'll tell a story right here. It was Friday. So me and the little one, we're going through Star Wars Rebels, just killing it. 5 episodes at a clip. She loves it. And I think we're season 3, and we watched the episode where they kind of recruit Wedge from the Empire. Like Sabine goes undercover. She's wearing a tie outfit, and they get Wedge and they bring him back. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to show her what that meant for the rebellion. So I cue up the attack on the Death Star in A New Hope. When Red 2 calls in, I was like, see? There he is. That's because of Sabine and the Rebels. and we let it play out, Blaine, and as it's playing out, I start fucking crying. I'm like, oh my God, I'm sharing this moment with my daughter. She saw Wedge get rescued, and now she's watching Luke, and Red 2 is the only one left, and he had to leave because, get out of here, Wedge. You can't do anything good back there. And I was having a fucking like, it's not just like tears, it's the I think this is because of my dad, and when I used to watch it with him, and now I'm sharing the moments with her, and I was like, but I love that shit. I am a male like most men that was raised to beat emotions out of you. You don't show emotions. You don't get sad. You got to be a tough guy. So in my 40s now, I'm coming to grips with that training, and Star Wars and music can make this rock melt. Like I just shattered. Yeah. And there's certain songs I can throw on and just go down a rabbit hole of sadness, but it makes me feel. So I kind of like it. It's tough to get emotional sometimes, but
I think I'm the only person here who has a moment that's well, I have one moment from the OT, but then I have sequel trilogy moments, and I know that it's like blasphemous.
I'm with you on the one. It's a big moment.
Trilogy moments.
I'm with you on your one.
So the trench run in the original trilogy, I can watch that anytime. Like the first time I saw it, it was like bum 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 bum. Oh my God, what's gonna happen?
Dude. Yeah, but
there's just so tension.
What really set me off Friday, sorry Nick, was when Obi-Wan is like, Use the Force, Luke.
Yeah.
Trust your feelings.
Let go. And he does it. And then the music kicks in. Dun, dun,
Yep.
dun, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm a little boy again.
I can remember. So Matt told you the story about me being 10, and that was kind of the first time I got into it. Like that's the moment that like caught me, because I was at my friend's house. We're watching it on VHS. Like, and I see, you know, I'm watching A New Hope, and like I'm interested. There's laser swords, anything that a 10-year-old little boy would enjoy. And then that moment comes, and it's like, oh my God, Darth Vader's right behind them. Are they going to make it? Is he going to make it? Because I know nothing about the trilogy from that point, and like I don't know if Luke Skywalker lives or dies or anything. I don't know anything, and like that just like made me a fan instantly. But then when the sequel trilogy came out, especially when I was seeing TFA in the theaters, the moment where you're on Starkiller Base in the forest, you know, Kylo just cuts down Finn. You have the Skywalker family blade sitting there in the snow, and he reaches for it, and it shakes, and he just looks confused. And he reaches again, and it flies, but I'm getting chills just recounting it. It flies past him and right into Rey's hands. And then the look on her face, the look on his face when she ignites that saber, that moment made me just fall to pieces in the theater. Like I was just like, oh my God, yes, it's her. And like that moment will forever, no matter how much the sequel trilogy kind of did fall apart towards the end, that moment will be held in stasis for me the first time that I saw it in the theaters. And it does really put TFA up there as one of my favorite Star Wars movies of all time.
Oh yeah, the Force Awakens definitely is high up there. And that scene alone, I mean, the nostalgia in there, you know, you had almost an identical scene to when Luke was hanging upside down in the Wampus Cave.
Yeah, I was going to say,
you had the John Williams music.
You get the Skywalker theme crescendos right when it hits her hands, like dun, 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 dun. It's like, oh, we got our new fucking Jedi. But she wasn't trained. How could she hold the lightsaber like that? She wasn't trained by a man. Sorry, sometimes that's how I act out the Star Wars trolls. I get triggered by that stuff. It's PTSD. All right, good stuff here. It's always fun to talk about what gets us crying over Star Wars. So you'll see, Nick, one day, or Blaine, if you guys procreate, as Tones is saying in the chat here, it fucks you up. I mean, having kids in general fucks you up, but emotionally, especially when you start sharing some of your passions, my God, it's something else. But I may have went a little too hard Friday, because we got into like some it was getting into the episode of Rebels where, you know, Maul is fully back into it and he needed Ezra to do the holocron thing, because you know, he's still looking for Obi-Wan. He is fucking obsessed with Obi-Wan, and he gets at, and I'm like, ooh, Charlie, who do you think he's looking for? Who do you think he meant when he said, ooh, he's still alive? And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, how do you not know this? How do you not know? It's Obi-Wan Kenobi. How do you not know? So I threw on the Phantom Menace to where he cuts him in half. I was like, look, you remember this? And she's like, I don't know. And I guess that night when she went to bed, she's like, Mommy, can we get the Star Wars encyclopedia? I need to study again. And that's where I know bad dad. That's where Dad fucked up. That might have been one too many IPAs. I might have got a little aggressive on the Star Wars training, but you know, she still loves me, I think. All right, Blaine, as we kind of transition into your art forms, a few more questions on Star Wars, though. And this is where you can kind of air your grievances. So have any of the films or animated series just not sat too well with you? Not to the point where you're like an internet troll going crazy, ready to burn down KK's house or something like that, but we're just like, man, that could have been way better.
Yeah, and I think in that respect, because I fly off the handle quite often, I don't really turn into a troll when it comes to Star Wars most of the time. And I will say, once people actually hear me out on my two grievances, they kind of at least see my point. The Last Jedi, there are amazing scenes in that movie. Visually stunning, there are some really kind of quality plot points in there. As the middle movie to a trilogy, something that needed to continue a story from the previous movie and lead into a completion of the next movie, it fails utterly. It's just not. I feel like they should have let that guy do one of the standalone movies. It just does not fit into a saga. And then, well, the other one isn't really a grievance, but the Rise of Resistance, is that Resistance?
Resistance, Star Wars. Yeah, the cartoon series.
Utter fucking trash. Quote me on it.
Whoa.
I watched 3 episodes.
You don't like Kaz, man? You don't like Kaz?
Never.
Come on, Dave Filoni, it was a part of it. You have to love it.
What a great concept and terrible execution.
Right. It was definitely more child friendly than anything that we've ever seen before. And I'll say that, like, it's funny because that was one of the first things that Matt and I ever chose to do standalone podcasts.
Yeah, we did Resistance Breakdown casts. Blaine, where were you? You would have loved those.
Yeah, you did listen to those. But
pull them up in our archives.
After a while, it does kind of get to the point where, I mean, it starts off a little kiddie, and I think in the middle, there are some good episodes that give you context into, like, you know, leading into the end of TFA, beginning of TLJ, stuff like that. But overall, in comparison to the other two animated series that we have, Rebels and Clone Wars, it really doesn't hold a candle.
Catch on. I mean, I did appreciate.
Clearly, it lasted what, 2 seasons?
Well, that's all they were only having it run in conjunction with the sequel trilogy. Like it timed out leading into the last movie.
Is that what they tell you?
Yeah, I mean that's what the press release said. But I'll always be a fan of Kaz. He was an interesting lead character, if anything else. But your TLJ points, Blaine, we've made those over and over, and really we blame the studio heads, Bob Iger. These people sat down and they're like, hey, we're going to make a trilogy, but instead of giving it to one person and letting it be a cohesive vision, we're going to hire 3 different artists. By the way, they're artists, so they're going to want to do their own thing, and we're going to let them write their own script and direct it. Good idea? Yeah. And you said exactly what we've highlighted. That doesn't work. I mean, the originals, George was involved in every movie, but he didn't direct and write them. He would do one or the other and just hang out. And it should have either been Colin, JJ, or Ryan should have had all 3. Because TLJ, in terms of a film, it's a well-made film. Standalone, it's not bad. But as Blaine pointed out, and I've said a million times, it doesn't flow. Tross, therefore, doesn't flow. JJ tried to overwrite some of the stuff in 8 to get what he wanted to do. And it just, as Nick said, it pittered out. And it was disappointing because we all had high hopes. And it's now, in my lifetime, I've gone through 2 Star Wars trilogies and have been let down by the end. And that's never a great feeling. But hey, we got Mando. We got this slate of Disney Plus shows coming out. Life is still good. Tyke is on the scene. Patty's on the scene. I just hope she doesn't make a Wonder Woman 84 for Rogue Squadron, because that will suck.
I just saw 84.
It's bad, right? It's not good.
And Taylor, Taylor
Blaine's
had to watch Wonder Woman.
He loved it. You can tell.
So my girlfriend Taylor had never seen Wonder Woman 1, so we watched Wonder Woman 1. She was like, that was really good. I enjoyed it. And then 2 days later, we watched 84, and we're like 45 minutes in the movie, and I text Matt, and I'm like, man, nothing has really happened yet. And then Taylor's just sitting there like, I can tell when she's not interested because she starts moving around a lot. She's like laying on the floor.
Getting on the phone.
She's like moving around on the
checking
couch.
Apps.
She's like, when is something going to happen? I'm like, I agree with you. This is just not good.
I mean, the only good thing about it is Gal Gadot is a goddess. I mean, Jesus, that white dress she wears in that one scene, it's like, ooh. And then Pedro, I mean, he's a stud too.
He did a really good job.
He's like, you get a wish, you get. I mean, he's great doing that kind of over the top 80s TV guy. But outside of that, it was a letdown.
It was about 45 minutes too long. Something. You cut 45 minutes of bullshit out of that movie, and then you probably have a legit decent follow-up to the original Wonder Woman. But, you know, I really do hope that Rogue Squadron, Patty Jenkins, takes it up to another level. I know that she's invested because her father was a fighter pilot. So I think that'll make her even more passionate towards what the project is.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the detail that goes into that because of that fact specifically.
Yep. All right, Blaine, kind of getting into the hobby itself. I mean, in the live chat here, we get a lot of IGers, a lot from the toy photography community. They're the ones that are usually most vocal, which shouldn't surprise anybody. You know, anyone that does the toy photography, they got a little bit of edge to their personality, I would say, right? We're all saying, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. So, Blaine, would you say, I mean, outside of all your other pop culture influences, because if you look at Blaine's page, I mean, he covers Marvel, DC, wrestling, I believe, is a line he does as well, or you used to do wrestling figures. But would you say kind of your Star Wars fandom and just how you grew up loving the pop culture, did that lead into kind of the arts you've gotten into, which I would say you're a digital artist, you're a concept artist, and you are a photographer? Is that fair?
Sure. I actually never really see myself as a photographer, but I just really wanted an outlet to show off. I just wanted an excuse to play with toys as an adult. Let's be real.
You're right. I mean, that's what we all say.
I just wanted to pose the toys and create these scenes. You know, I'm a conceptual artist. I wanted to create these scenes, and I have all of these toys, so why not use it? But yeah.
Did you start like most of us where, you know, it was just, hey, I got a new toy, I'll take a picture of it in the box or out of the box, you just left it alone. Then you're like, ooh, I just saw this guy, this 1/6 shooter, he's using lights on them and shit. Oh, I'll try that. And oh, this guy, this plastic action, oh, holy shit, he's got one floating in the air. I mean, did it kind of progress from just, I collect stuff, here's a new haul, to, let's start playing with these things?
Yeah, I actually, and I'm not sure how many, it's like the new generation, it's the prequel generation of toy photographers.
There is like a whole new,
there is. And I guess self-proclaimed, and I don't mean this to say that I was good by any means, because it was like with an iPhone 2, but I'm one of like the OG toy photographers. I've been doing toy photography for about 8 years.
Oh yeah, you would be one, because to me, I got in 15, 16, and that's when I feel like things really started to gain steam. Like around 2016, it seems like you start to see the bigger accounts, the more advanced work, and then, like you said, it seems like every year a new generation shows up and is getting in the game. So if you've been doing this for 8 years, you definitely go on the Mount Rushmore of toy photography.
I mean, and back then it really was just people taking pictures of toys. You know, now it has become, which I love. I'm so grateful for the people who have come since then, because it's really shown that you can do art. You can be an artist. You can create pieces, not just. You can get. I mean, shit. You can get hired. I mean, there are people in the community now. I mean, literally, I believe Plastic Action. I don't know if Blaine's ever been commissioned. I think 1/6 has been commissioned. I mean, but they're having companies. I think Plastic Action, Foot Locker paid them to do like a big toy shoot for one of their lines using toys. Yeah, and we're not just getting like these commissions to do things. So to backtrack and answer your question, I had gotten my start taking pictures of toys that I was customizing. I started as a toy customizer, and I would take pictures. There's you can look it up if you want to, figurerealm.com. And it was basically just a site to showcase custom pieces. And one of my closest friends on Instagram, Action Figure Attack, he was like, well, why don't you put them in these scenes, recreate scenes to make them, to make people want them more, want to see them more, want to buy your customs, things like that. So that's how I got my start in toy photography. And to answer your follow-up about getting hired, Action Figure Attack, Steve Ozer, started as a toy photographer and news outlet on Instagram. And through that, I mean, obviously through his life once and everything, has become a marketing manager at Mattel, working full stop, creating content and creating toys. And so it's really phenomenal the way that it has. It's a phenomenon. It's taken off, and industry professionals are putting, stupid little Instagram toys up on these big screens at Comic-Con, and you see your name up there. And I went to a toy company for a tour and was talking to some of the artists and saying, this is what I do as a hobby. Oh, do you have any work? And I showed my Instagram. Like, this looks really familiar, and walked over and showed another guy, and he was like, at the time I was just Blainer. Like, oh, you're Blainer on Instagram, aren't you? I'm like, what?
Yeah, look at this. And
found out that people working in the studio followed me. So yeah, it's remarkable. And I think it's a symbiotic relationship. I think that the industry sees the potential. It's free marketing.
Oh yeah.
So the industry sees the potential in highlighting these people to promote their product, which sells more product, which gets these people to want to buy more product, to take more pictures, to sell more product. So
are you partnered with anyone at this point? I mean, are you at that level where a manufacturer will, either send you product or send you cashola to do a shoot?
So I have never received cash to do a toy photography shoot. I am fortunate enough to be on a few small influencer lists, so I will receive toys here and there. With obviously, you'll get like a paper and say, shoot these, use these hashtags, things like that. And then I do work contractually with people, but I'll keep that.
Yeah, it is mysterious.
Too many haters.
It is mysterious what you do in real life. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like you just, you get to play with your toys and draw and post your stories. But I'm assuming you have a Clark Kent to your Blainerthings superhero personality, right?
Yes, and that I think I'm pretty okay revealing. So, I've kind of evolved to moving into the toy industry professionally. Hopefully, whoever's watching,
sign this dude up.
I'm moving into working in that industry. Cool. But I've had a very lucrative 20-year career in hair design and education. So that is my Clark Kent. I've been fortunate enough to literally travel the country and go into salons and kind of hair shows, our version of Comic-Con.
Really? So like you're so sought after in that industry. They're like, hey, let's fly Blaine in and we'll really show people how to fucking do this, right?
It never feels like that, but it's really, when people say that, I'm like, oh shit, they really,
man, be proud of. I mean, Nick and I, we don't have hair anymore, so it's really
both.
We can't get a Blainerthings style, but that is cool, man. Hey, I'm an educator myself, and there's no better profession in my opinion, especially with the schedule. But I love trying to teach for the most part. Some people it's a little more effort and struggle than I'd like, but I do like to teach. So no, that's cool.
Did you ever try to pivot your hairstyling career into the movie realm? So like you're working with like on a set or something like that and doing the hairstyles.
Man, let's get you on Mando season 3. Apparently they're filming in April. Let's go.
Yeah, you can do Bo-Katan's hair, or you can do Casca's hair, or something like that. Was that ever a desire, or was it looked at as more of like I don't want to mix my job and my pleasure together?
Yeah, so I'll go as fast as possible. Quick fun backstory is most families of cosmetologists, of hairdressers, when you hear a hairdresser tell their background story, a lot of times it's, well, my parents wanted me to go to college. I chose beauty school, or I went to college first, then I went and did beauty school. I was actually the opposite. I really wanted to go to art school. My parents are fourth-generation Americans, have lived in the same small town their entire lives. My mother has been on an airplane literally 4 times in her entire life. So they were saying, you know, oh, there aren't really any art jobs around here. So why don't you go to beauty school, get licensed, and then you can always go back to art school and have a career to work through and to fall back on. So I did that and kind of was held back by this small town mentality for many, many years. And my dream, as you can see in the middle screen, was to design costumes and hair, looks head to toe for movies. So not necessarily doing the hairstyling on set, but designing what hair and costume and makeup would look like. Okay. And yeah, throughout my career, probably not a surprise to many, I have a very staunch political stance. And I, you know, through my career, I was able to, for example, I worked with a fashion designer, Pierre Moss, and a singer, Erykah Badu. Oh, yeah. If you guys know them. I was able to style hair for New York Fashion Week for them. Hell yeah. And that was really amazing because Pierre Moss, it was an actual political statement within his fashion show. He actually, what was it? It's either Kamala or, yeah, I think Kamala showed up in a Pierre Moss jacket the day of the inauguration. So that was really neat and be like, oh, I know that guy.
Yeah, dude. See, I told you he is a man of many talents. Told you.
It's all art.
It is though. It really is.
When people say like, oh, you know, why don't you do more art? Because I have started to do more by way of, you know, conceptual design and art and do like freelance and commission and stuff. But people are like, why didn't you ever do anything with your art? Well, I did. Hair was just my medium for the longest time. So
that's a good point. Yeah, sometimes you don't think about that, but it is an art form, just like designing costumes, designing a set. Yeah. I mean, it is an all an art. And I never thought I had any art in me either, and I still question if I do. But it is a fun release to line up the little guys, do a shoot, and see if the Instagram algorithm will honor you that particular share or not. So you did. Did you finish art school then? I mean, do you have like a 2-year or 4-year? I mean, are you an official art school grad?
So I have a vocational degree. So basically like a tech school in commercial arts. And then I was planning, actually over quarantine, I had applied to a toy design program, and they kept saying next semester they're going back in person, and it was too far from where I currently live, so I was not able to do that. But yeah, it's been something where I've been trying to go back for more kind of specific what I want to do.
Yeah, because I mean, like Blaine said, if you're on the live stream, and if you're not, we implore you to check out the Star Wars Time Show on YouTube. You can this whole live stream will be recorded. You can check it out and see all the visuals. But what we're looking at here is Blaine's concept of Benedict Cumberbatch as Grand Admiral Thrawn. And it just, I mean, first and foremost, as someone that loves art, and this is what we'd call real ass paint, by the way, on the Star Wars Time Show. We're morons, we're cavemen, and rather trying to figure out all the different art forms, you know, watercolors or vector art, it's just real ass paint. So first and foremost, what we're looking at is it's just really quality artwork. Because to me, Nick and Blaine, you could probably clarify, but it's got like this, it's got a cell shaded visual style to it. Think like Borderlands or something like that.
I was going to say, if you've ever played Borderlands, it does kind of feel like a character that you could just plop right into Borderlands. It would fit.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's cartoony, because I mean, shit, the dude drew Benedict's face just like the face Benedict's face.
Perfect.
You could say cartoony. It's that I'm definitely not like, I wouldn't call myself like a realistic artist. It's weird because aside from conceptual art, like my own kind of style is very animated / cartoony, it's just comic booky.
It's like I said. I mean, it has it to me. It's got the cell shaded look where it's very vibrant.
No, not an insult
it's
at all.
Vibrant. It pops. You know, you got a nice depth of field in the piece to really make Ben stand out. But is, you know, I look at this and I'm like, all right, hire the guy, you know, fucking sign him up. Let's go. Lucasfilm. Here we go. I mean, look at this one. Look at his Bo-Katan. And mind you, he dropped this on May 17th. This is when Katie's inclusion was still rumored, even though right here at the Star Wars Time Show, we told you it was going to happen. And it did. But look at what he did. Look at what he did.
I mean,
it's like they fucking stole his idea.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, obviously I can't take too much credit because I did base it off of the Rebels look. I will say maybe just my knack of, or maybe my career, I will give myself credit and pat myself on the back. Her hair is much better in my concept design than the wig that we got on the show.
It was a little stiff, wasn't it, on the show? Just
throwing it out there.
It didn't quite flow. And again, we just learned, I mean, Blaine would know. He's a professional, and I agree. The one thing off on Katie as live Bo was her hair, for sure. But look at that. I mean,
but I loved...
It's spot on, Blaine. Take your credit. Pound your chest. I mean, that is a fucking spot on concept for what we got. And we're talking, what, 6 months prior? 7 months almost?
Yeah, I mean, we had no screenshots. We had no set photos. We had nothing. And you essentially drew the pitch perfect version of what we got on the show.
And here's another one that caught my eye. Bingo. And look, everyone, he drew the necktails past her breast.
This is where I was going to
made all of you happy.
Let's get into the controversy. Let's get into the controversy, Blaine. When you saw the episode with Ahsoka in it, and she had the shorter Leku,
oh, he hated it.
How mad were you?
He was ready to burn down Lucasfilm.
I was pissed because it took me out of the story.
Okay.
I wanted to stay because here's what happens when you're watching science fiction and fantasy. There are certain things that ground you within the world to make you believe that that world is real. And when movies in any, Marvel has started to do it and it's pissed me off. Star Wars does it and it pisses me off. When it takes you out of the moment and you're thrown out of that vortex, suddenly it's, oh crap, I'm not believing it now. And now I'm focused on that instead of focusing on the storyline. So the first time I watched the episode, I was so focused because we watched Ahsoka from childhood, and then we had her in Rebels, and even in Clone Wars we have that episode where she sees her older self.
Yeah. So
we know that her species, as they grow, the horns get larger, the whatever, I'm terrible with names, get longer.
Nick knows them all. What is it? The Leku and the Neku.
Mantrals or whatever.
There you go. Up here.
See, Blaine knew it too. He knew it too. He just didn't want to say it.
I've heard.
You can be as nerdy as you want on here. Nobody's going to judge you.
You know, it was disappointing, and it took me out of it. And I've gone back and watched the episode, and I think Rosario Dawson does a phenomenal job as an older version of Ahsoka. But yes, it definitely took me out of it, and I think that I understand why they didn't make them as long as with Rebels. I thought that their excuse was valid to a point, but I thought that they were also using it as a crutch because, as you can see in my drawing that's up on the screen, they're not as long as they were in Rebels. I did that purposely. I thought that they were a little.
Yeah, you're right. In Rebels, they almost like go past their waist. I mean, they are very long.
And in the flash forward scene in Clone Wars, they were like Shock T's level. And I didn't want that. I wanted something because I like when I'm doing a conceptual design, I think of the functionality. And I was thinking of the functionality of her fighting as a live action actress and how that would work.
Yeah, because that was their big. That's why they said they couldn't do it. It was the weight of the headset and the stunts.
And that's why they wouldn't be able to be as big as they were in Rebels. But it's also a bullshit excuse because we saw, like, what was her name in Jabba's palace? Ula.
Yeah.
The Twi'lek
You
slave.
got her, man.
We saw that actress in 1983, and then again she reprised her role in the special edition. We saw her dancing around.
Yeah.
Right?
Whipping that head back and forth.
We saw in season 1 of The Mandalorian, we saw the blue Twi'lek, where they went to like save his brother.
Yep.
Hers were as long as, and I did it purposely, hers were as long as Ahsoka's are in the picture that I drew, and she was fine. So yes, I get that they couldn't be like overcumbent because of stunts and the weight of it. But I think that they scaled it back
we got a
too
comment
far.
in the stream where basically they said Nick and I are stupid and Blaine is the best. Utah Don says, I didn't mind it and kind of thought you all, Star Wars fans in general, were being babies about it. But Blaine's point about details that can take a viewer out of the story is a damn good point. There you go.
A lot of the complainer things, TM.
Complainer things, I love it, dude.
It has good points, but people don't want to hear points.
Exactly. I mean, Nick and I, we dedicated a segment to punching people in the face that got so upset about Ahsoka's shit in The Mandalorian because we're like, listen, get over it. It's fucking Star Wars.
I will say, when that was the one of the episodes that I had watched, and I think very, very soon afterwards was when you had asked me to be a guest. And I was like, are they baiting me?
He's like, fuck
because
these guys.
I definitely complained about Ahsoka. And here they are telling like everyone to stop being pussies. I'm like,
That's my brand of Star Warsism.
And let me just go, because I told Matt too, I was like, man, it bothered me a little bit, but I got past it. And I guess I didn't do a good enough job of breaking it down like you did, Blaine, and explaining to people
Nick's trying to clean up his mess. It's fine. It's like I said, it's differences of opinion. I'm just someone where
I did
kind of like I think Kung Fu said it best. He's like, I'm glad I can just still watch stuff and not let little nuances completely ruin it for me.
It's all about the details for me.
Well, it makes sense now that we're learning more about you. I mean, if you are someone that knows conceptual design, especially up in the head area, how things should flow, of course. And no, we don't think you're stupid for getting a little upset at it, you know, because you at least said you went back and watched it and realized that, hey, in the end, Rosario was still awesome. It was still great to get the character in live action. And you're not a shithead
complainer.
I mean, I get angry at shitheads. Okay, just like you get
you're not the baby with the bathwater kind of person. Right. Like, you know.
think about the way I deal with Star Wars fans. It's akin to how you deal with conservatives and the MAGA type.
What are they conserving?
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, the conservatism in that party just is an oxymoron at this point in time. But anyways, you know what I mean? Like I get the same type of passion, and a lot of times it's, you know, I'm cutting a promo. We're doing a show, my friends. Sometimes for 4 fucking hours for free. I'm not just gonna sit here and be like, yeah, I agree. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, you're right. Nah, I'm gonna get a little fucking goofy, and I might chase some people off. Although OAC participated in the question of the week. That's the first time since I dressed him down in episode 142. So
sometimes it's a little too personal.
He may be making. I've gotten personal enough to where someone hit me up and was like, "Hey man, that was fucked up. I'm not going to listen to the show anymore." I was like, "Oh well, I mean, hey, that's your opinion, but it is what it is."
Just one time,
yeah.
Good for you.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot more. They just didn't come and tell me that I've ruined their day.
Didn't just tell us. They just stopped.
Yeah, I felt bad a little bit, but I don't.
I feel like they have to tell me.
Oh,
and I'll just say, like, then why are we here? Why did you even let me know? Just as a matter of fact, let me do the honors. I love that Instagram has an unfollow button where you can force another page to unfollow your page. I just discovered it in the last year, and it's my favorite
I'm
feature.
telling you, my friends, check him out on Instagram. Hit up his stories. I don't know if they'll be as entertaining if the world kind of unfucks itself over these next couple years, but I'm sure there will still be people coming for him, and the Kraken will be released.
And then, and then it goes to something else. It is something, and I really like, and I forget who coined the phrase complainer things. It's kind of my shtick, and I enjoy it, and it is for entertainment purposes. I don't walk around like
Star Wars Time Show people. People can kind of amp things up online, and it's not exactly who they are. Thank you.
And listen, Mama didn't raise no fool. It gets more likes.
Fuck yeah.
All of the shit comments I got on that 15,000
yes,
whatever
drove
posts.
the algo. IG was like, look, this is some hot shit. People. Go.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I started thanking people. I'm like, my friends will be like, why are you even engaging? You're 30 comments deep. I'm like, because engagement is what promotes your post in algorithm. So I started thanking these maggots when they're commenting. I'm like, thank you so much for bringing more awareness to this post.
I mean, the Captain America is going to hit 15,000, and I would wager that is your biggest reach of all time, right? Or no?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because of, I think last time I looked, it was approaching 800 comments. Now 400 of those are probably Blaine yelling at people and replying to them.
Yeah. But it had gone over 1,000 comments. I deleted the death threats. I deleted right away.
Okay.
Good job, people.
I would have a conversation, and then when I said my piece and it was entertaining enough for my story, I just delete that thread. So yeah.
I'm actually pissed at myself.
They're only good for the moment.
I'm pissed at myself, and the rest of you Blainerthings fans should be pissed at us too for keeping Blaine off of Instagram now for almost an hour, which means I'm going to be missing out on my story content at the end of the show.
What are we missing?
I don't know. You're going to post something. I'm not fucking around, Blaine. When I hit that app and I go to the Haywood Pop account, the first thing I do is look at the top and to see if you've got color on your story circle, because I know that means you posted something new. And I'm not that big of a stalker, but I love your story content. I can't help it. I take pleasure in watching idiots get clobbered by intelligent people, even when the idiots don't know that they look so stupid. That's the best part. And Blaine is one of the best at just sometimes doing it a nice way and pointing out that they're really fucking dumb, but also kicking them right in the balls and pulling their underwear over their head and reminding them that they're stupid. So
I give it a chance. I try to be somewhat mature.
I just like all the ones recently like, hey man, why you gotta be political? Just go back to playing with your toys. And he's like, it's a fucking shot of toys, you idiot. And it's like, yeah.
He was like, don't be political. Stick to taking pictures of action figures. This is a picture of an action figure.
All right, man.
Of Captain America, who was invented to be political.
As a political figure.
Oh, yeah. Star Wars fans, I mean, they get me the most. You take away science fiction, what do you have left?
Right. Yeah, it is a political commentary. That is exactly.
I mean, the early films were more or less as George's commentary on Vietnam. I mean, that's what supposedly the Ewoks were all about. I mean, they were the Vietnamese, and yeah. But hey, man, we know not all people can be as intelligent as this triumvirate on the Star Wars Time show right now.
and I'm a fucking idiot. So what does that say for the people that
it's a? We don't think you're an idiot, Blaine, but I know exactly what you're saying. It does lead you to believe that it doesn't matter what happens now. We're all fucked. We had 75 million of these motherfuckers in this country, so watch out. All right, let's get off of the political shit. Back to Star Wars. Blaine, the concept of Ahsoka, is this the one that got picked up by Rosario, or was that your digital edit?
It was the concept. She did share my first digital edit of
which
her
I think
as Ahsoka
have up.
But yeah, the concept work was shared by her, and that was phenomenal.
That's always that has to feel amazing.
Yeah, it used to happen a lot. Like back in the heyday of Instagram, I would do conceptual designs, and the actors and actresses would reshare a lot and like and comment. And then it stopped because Instagram got insane. So when it happens, I believe Katie Sackhoff had also shared. That was like a moment for me. Katie Sackhoff I'm a huge Battlestar Galactica fan, and
same.
I need to go back and rewatch. Lord. It's been about 10 years since I watched.
I do it annually.
It's an annual watch.
The entire series. Yep.
Do you do 100%. Like the official chronological watch, where it's like some of the TV movies are supposed to be moved before the seasons, or do you just go in our chronological release order?
There are times where I try to do chronological, and there are times where I'm watching and it just goes right into the next part of the season. And instead of like taking it out and be like, okay, I have to turn on Razor.
Yeah,
at this
so
point.
you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the Razor doesn't technically fit in their timeline as it did in our timeline when it got released. Yes, we are nerds. Right. We are hardcore, but
the Razor is the Rogue One of Battlestar Galactica.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I love that too. But Katie's excellent. It's awesome to have her in Star Wars in multiple formats now. I mean, we got her the toon version and live action. But right now, Blaine, I have the you call their digital customs, and this is something that I don't know too many people that do this. What Blaine does at Blainerthings on Instagram, he does digital customs, and he's got this one that he dropped in December 2020 of Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. And I'm going to kind of flip over to the process, but if you're looking at the live stream, my friends, he took the Clone Wars era Ahsoka, I believe it looks like, and somehow magically superimpose Rosario's face on there. Was it from another figure? Or did you grab it like a
Luke Cage, the Marvel Legends? She played Claire in the Netflix Defender series. So there was a Luke Cage Claire 2-pack. And that was a Rosario Dawson action figure. So I just exactly what you said. I superimposed her face. I shot them both in the same position, same lighting, and then superimposed her face, and then sat there in Procreate and drew, her face tattoos, recolored her skin.
So I have the other great thing about following at Blainerthings is almost always drops his process. So you'll get the shot and then you swipe. What we're looking at now is kind of the time-lapse video of his edits to take that Hasbro Ahsoka and turn it into his digital custom of at Rosario. That's playing right now on the screen. And it is amazing. I think that's what I wanted to get into because, I've had Jason on before at work more or less, and we were talking about you. And, that's where, one day I got to get Blaine on the show. And now we finally made it. It's almost a year later, but we did it. We did it. We have goals here at the Star Wars Time Show, and we check them off. It's just slow sometimes. But yeah, these digital edits, let me pull up another one that was quite impressive as we're looking at his Sabine concept art. And with his Sabine concept, he's actually fan casted Jamie Chung in the role of Sabine. You can check that out. That's on the screen now. But I want to get to one of his other digital customs. It's the Rogue One kind of team shot, Blaine. I don't know if you remember this one. It was from August.
Yes. Yep.
This one is very impressive because, I mean, it looks like you took... I forget who played Baze, but it looks like you took an actual shot of him on set and grafted it onto the Black Series Baze figure.
Yeah, so what I did with them, actually for all of them, was I took reference photos of the actual actors, and I did what we in the art business call a paint over. So I took those photo references and I digitally placed them onto the face, and then on a new layer drew over it. I kind of painted it to blend with the action figures. And this comes from, like I said, I got my start customizing figures, and unfortunately 2 years ago, I feel like I bring this up all the time, maybe I should see a therapist. My house had burned down, lost all of
I remember that. Yeah, I remember
belongings.
seeing that on Instagram.
And I had a lot of just art tools that I had accumulated over the years, and it would just be so much to go back and buy, and go back and I think about the hundreds and hundreds of dollars I spent on loose figures from eBay just to customize them. And I was seeing what I've been doing on Procreate. I went digital to try to go green about a year and a half ago. Stop drawing on paper and wasting the paper and go with Procreate. So I was seeing what I was able to do with those. And I said, well, I really miss customizing figures. And I would have people hit me up on Instagram and say, hey, do you custom figures anymore? And I kind of just had a light bulb go off. And like you said, it was something that I don't see anyone do. And I was like, well, I actually have an idea that's original for once. So I started doing what I love to do and customizing
I've
figures.
Pulled up another recent one here, and it's your Brown Eyes It's your
Yeah.
custom
Yes.
of Din Djarin in the episode was at S2E7, where he drops the bucket and just kind of has that, you know, deer in headlights look. And this one, I believe you used some Han Solo hair, the actual Din figure, but I'll tune to the video on the live stream so you can see it. But you can see how he colors in the helmet, because that's just a white tank trooper helmet, tank commander helmet.
Mhm.
It is crazy to see your process play out. How long, Blaine, does something like looking at Brown Eyes, start to finish, how long does that take?
The Brown Eyes one,
Because this is,
editing.
I'm sorry, this is one of your more practically set up shots, right? You actually even had...
yes.
Because if people haven't noticed, if you're not on the live stream, again, check him out at Blainerthings on Instagram and look at some of his behind the scenes. But if you haven't noticed at this point, Blaine almost does everything digitally in terms of he'll shoot his figures against like a fucking Coke can and then wipe out the background and paint. It looks like he almost paints in an actual background. So you do almost all of your work on your iPad, right? I mean, almost all your stuff is
Yes.
typically digitally rendered, created. You paint, you add to it, you superimpose this, that, and the other thing. But this one, you actually did set up some sort of practical background, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Right along with your last episode, that is a space wall by Galactic Trading Post, and some of the barrels and stuff. And yeah, I did the setup. So the setup really didn't take long. Setting that up, it was a pretty simple scene. So that probably only took about 20 minutes to a half hour to set up, and then shooting it. Most of the time went into the editing, lining up the Mando and it was Han from the Solo movie. It was the Han like mud trooper.
Yep.
And making sure that they lined up correctly and had the same lighting. That was a little rough because I was doing a practical shot, whereas normally I would just shoot them both on a green screen and then I can splice them together. So making sure they were the right height and in the same position, that probably took the longest practically. But then in editing, it probably took me about like 2 hours.
I was going to say, you sink some time into these little pieces, and it shows. I mean, I make fun of myself all the time. I mean, these days with a little kid, both parents at home, I've lost a lot of my hobby time outside of, you know, I get the few hours to come play with you guys during Star Wars Time show each week. But, you know, a lot of my work has been simplified to account for that. And that's why I don't create amazing looking art like Blaine. You do have to put the fucking time into it. Especially doing all the digital magic. I mean, that's something I avoid like the plague, because anything Adobe makes is like rocket science to me. Photoshop makes no sense. The menus are stupid. The terminology is stupid. Nothing just flows like it should. It should just say, yo, I want to fucking wipe a background. The tool should be called the fucking background wiper. Not, you got to do a layer mask and then use a fucking black brush to wipe it out. That makes no sense. Logically, like, who the fuck ever thought of that? If you paint something black with a layer mask, it erases the other layer underneath it. That's like I said, it's rocket science. That shit doesn't make sense to me. What are we talking about? Just say, I want to fucking wipe this. Done. That's the tool. Sorry. Sorry.
Fun fact, I was actually trained on Photoshop many moons ago. And I went, when I started doing the digital, because I would do a lot of setups and I would create dios. And then, of course, after the fire, it's like, well, I can't afford to just buy a bunch of dio stuff again. So that's where I started going full on digital. And I downloaded Adobe. First of all, realized that I have to pay a monthly subscription. Fuck yourself. Second of all, I looked at it and I was like, going in thinking, yeah, I went to school for 4 years for this. And then I looked at it. And like,
exactly. Like your brain just turns off. Mine does, at least.
So I very, very, very cheaply use a number of different free apps.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah,
so
Superimpose X.
If you could, like, let some of the fans listening here, because I know they're interested.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are some of the tools? And this is all on your iPad, right? You don't fuck with a computer, nothing.
all
right,
on my
let them
iPad.
have it, because I know a lot of times, and you made a good point. I mean, we'd all love to have these expensive diodes. I know I do. I mean, I try to go as practical as possible, as I just outlined it. I don't want to get into the digital stuff. A, I suck at it. B, I don't feel like learning it. And C, who gives a shit, right? But as Blaine said, you don't need to be rich. You don't need to have the best equipment. I mean, look what he is doing on a fucking iPad. And what is do you have a DSLR, or are you a smartphone shooter?
So I actually just last year purchased a digital camera and worked more or less. Jason, he kind of steered me in the right direction on what to buy, but I have, you know, an SLR2 and just the lens that it came with.
There you go. Like that's the point. Because I know a lot of times, I mean, I still question why people would ask me for advice on toy photography, but I'm flattered nonetheless.
I get it. And I'm like,
I'm flattered nonetheless, but it usually is. A lot of people think like, oh, if I just get the best, the biggest and baddest everything, then I can do it. And no, that's, to me, anyone can fucking shoot a camera. It's, do you have the eye? Can you compose a scene? Do you have the imagination? But as Blaine has proven, you don't need to buy the $800 macro lens like I have to make your toys look bigger. That 1-to-1 zoom shit. No,
I would love a macro lens.
They're great, dude. You need to get one. but point being,
love one, but that's not my budget. I spend all my money on toys.
There you go. If you've got the creativity, which is something I lack, the imagination, which is something I lack, you can do impressive stuff, impressive creations, as we're seeing, as we've been talking to Blaine here. So gear-wise, what are some of the apps? I guess it's not gear, but app-wise, what do you use on your iPad Pro to say, we'll do it twofold, to create your concept art? That's all still iPad Pro, but what app are you using for that?
So that's done with Procreate, and that is an app that you have to buy, and I think it's a one-time purchase of $20. Well worth it. You think about art supplies, you never have to buy paper again. You never have to buy brushes, pens, pencils. You have every medium right there. You can paint, you can draw, you can charcoal, you can watercolor, anything. So Procreate is probably my most used app. I use it for drawing, and then Tom Iwatu on Instagram, he kind of opened my eyes to being able to do more toy photography editing with it. So I started playing around with that, and that's where a lot of my digital custom comes in terms of, you can do everything in Procreate. You can remove a background. Like if you shoot on a green screen, you can remove that background in Procreate. It's very time consuming. So I downloaded an app called Superimpose X, and it's super simple. I learned it in one day, and it's very, like you were saying, it's very direct. There's one thing where you can just tap the background and it deletes the background, and then you've got a brush and you can go and fine tune it.
Let's go.
Yeah,
hey,
it's
Blaine,
wonderful.
start making tutorials. Let's go. You can challenge. Sir Dork. He's doing all the live action tutorials, blowing shit up. You need to start doing the digital stuff. Come on, us dummies need
Jared,
that.
Sir Dork, he has it on the. Talk about someone who really just enjoys sharing their craft. Huge shout out to him.
Love
He's
Sir.
Such a likable
Sir Dork
guy.
is one of our first super fans. I mean, he's just a very nice kid. Always sharing his tips, and I'm glad that his YouTube venture is finally starting to take off. He's finally starting to get those six-figure type of view counts, and he deserves it. I'm sorry. So we were talking about the apps you use for your concept art. Yeah.
So Procreate, Superimpose X, and then sometimes I just enjoy adding. I got a little J.J. Abrams in me, and I enjoy a good lens flare.
You and Black Series.
So I have. Oh, Zay. So I use Lens Effects. I think.
Yes,
I think
I've used that one
without the vowels. I think he does everything in Adobe. But yeah, Lens Effects and Lens Light.
I can.
Other than that, I'll go to Google and just search PNGs.
So Blaine, I got to ask you on Lens Effects, because I was a fan too, because it gives you a lot of great shit. You know, muzzle flares. I even think they have a lightsaber blade in there. Has he made it now to where you export a photo, it doesn't scale it down and de-res it? Because that's why I stopped using it.
Yeah, and that's where you know, some of the times when I want a lot of detail, I will go into Procreate and take that time and manually
I
delete the
you
background. You look at one of my most recent shots is Darius from the Jurassic World animated series with a brachio, and I had to do 3 layers for that. And yeah, I feel like every layer kind of lowers the res. And when you look at the picture on my iPad, it's so beautiful. And then I post it on Instagram, and if you zoom in on his head, his facial features, and I went into Procreate and I redid his eyes, I repainted his eyes, like I spent all this time, and it just looks like a little blur. So that is the downside.
Yeah, I mean, that app was great. I mean, anyone listening, if you're not like an OCD resolution person, Lens Effects is one of the greatest mobile apps for people like myself, and to a degree, Blaine, that don't want to fuck around with Photoshop. I mean, it just has all these built-in effects. You can just plop right on top of a photo, resize it, mix the blending, and you're off to the races. How about for your more traditional work? Like, let's say I got brown eyes up. What do you use for that? I mean, obviously you shoot the shot on a camera, but then once you load it onto your iPad, what does it go through? Multiple apps, or does it live in one app and then gets exported, or what?
I think that one was just Procreate. I had gone into Procreate because it was a practical shot. So both shots with Din and Han were in the same exact position. So all I had to do was put 2 on top of each other and then erase what I needed to. And then being able to draw the face in there. That was completely done.
And I think that's where like your work kind of goes above and beyond. It's the fact that you do the great layering and whatnot, but it's then, and I've watched a lot of your videos, but you'll get in there, you'll zoom in on like a strand of hair, and you'll either extend it with your brush or add a little bit more color to it, and it does seem to make the edit much more seamless when you kind of put those little digital touches on it versus just, you know, how we would typically wipe some of the layer to reveal the other, and hey, there it is. But you actually get in there and like fine tune the edges with your paintbrush.
Yeah, there are times. I mean, I have a recent Wonder Woman versus Ares shot, and I was using the SH Figure Arts Wonder Woman, and I thought it was going to be good because her hair was kind of flowy, and then I posed it, and it was not. And luckily, with SH Figure Arts, the hair is removable. I took the hair off, and that hair is completely drawn by hand. I think there's just like
I'm pulling it up right now while Blaine's talking about. So if you are watching the live stream, you can see it. Yeah, I mean, she's got like a butch cut, and then he adds some flows to it. Yeah, it's
so really, you know, if you know how to draw, it really opens you up to being able to do. You know, there are scenes. I did a Dune shot and they were in the desert, and I'm like, why is her hair just stuck down? So just drawing the hair flowing, you know, it definitely opens you up, and I was able to draw the lightning on that. So
yeah, I'm just scrolling through your page now as you're talking about your work, just so people can get a wide ranging perspective of everything you do. I mean, hell, I even love your Blainerthings action figure. I mean, even those. I think you made one for Jason too, didn't you? You even put him in a package.
I did. Yeah, I did. I did packaging for him, so it was a thank you. I had done 3, and then it blew up, and I started doing more. I had done 3 for people who kind of have helped me. It was at a time where I got to finally move into being able to do things professionally for the industry. And as a thank you to Jason, to Steve, who is at Action Figure Attack, and to Randy Falk at NECA, I made them into action figures. Steve, Action Figure Attack, he helped create the WWE Ultimates line. So I did him in Ultimates packaging with that articulation. Jason, of course, loves Star Wars Black Series, so I did him in the style of a Star Wars Black Series figure and did that in the packaging. And then Randy Falk I did in the articulation style and packaging of a NECA figure.
And all three of you, I know at least one of you is listening. You need to get a T-shirt made out of that and wear it around proudly because it is beautiful.
And I've since done some commissions for people. I've done Steve Evans, who you probably know best from
Mr. Stevie.
He ran that fucking Star Wars show. Man, was Black Series he really helped turn it into what it is today. So I created him in Star Wars Black Series, the red box packaging, and then redid a version. He now has an Instagram show, Tall Toy Tales, and I did him with his logo.
Everyone's jumping on your bandwagon, man. With the IG show.
It's fun. I mean, who doesn't want to be immortalized as an action figure?
No, they are awesome. I'm again just on the stream, just scrolling through your full portfolio. We've hit the Lobot and 2-1B and Bespin Leia concept art you have up there. Again, just beautiful looking stuff. I did ask you a few questions before you came on because, I mean, I've already kept you well past the time I told you I would, so sorry. It kind of happens here.
I've just peed my pants at this point.
Hey,
you get used to
fear
that.
not. I take a pee break every single show, so you can you'll probably see him in the chat like, hey, Matt, is it time to go pee yet? But no, I usually start having to pee and letting a little leak out around the 2-hour mark. But I promise, Blaine, we'll get you out of here soon, buddy. I do appreciate you kind of just hanging out. I told you, we just sit around, hang out, powwow, talk Star Wars. You never know where it's going to go. But I did want, Blaine to kind of get some of his thoughts out on the hobby, as I know a lot of our listeners do appreciate what he does and would one day like to grow up and be at Blainerthings in terms of the type of content they put out. So a few more questions here. Would you say, what's your favorite line to work with at this point in time? Is it Marvel, Star Wars, DC? I mean, right now, what's giving you, or what's kind of scratching your imagination these days?
Man, that is a tough one. I would say I kind of have been pushed into a Marvel Legends box. It was never my favorite to shoot, always a favorite to collect. And Hasbro very, very graciously started sharing my work. I think I've been shared at every Toy Fair, Comic-Con for the last 5 years, and that kind of blew up. So a lot of Marvel people, I noticed that Marvel posts get the most likes and the most interaction. So I sort of would say, just because of that, I like to make people happy sometimes. So probably Marvel Legends, but Star Wars is just a favorite because of the expansive-ness.
Well, that was the right answer. I wanted to make sure you ultimately got to the right answer, but you did. He is right, though. I mean, I'd imagine anyone at this point has realized what the algo favors, and it's typically based on your followers and what they like the most. And I'm easily 100% Star Wars. If I go non-Star Wars, it's dead in the water. If I go Star Wars, it may still be dead in the water, but it has a better chance to make it outside of a Toy Pop session or some of the dumb shit I have to get looped in just so I know people will see my work. But it is. I mean, we do. Our followers are defined by the algorithm, so that makes complete sense. If Marvel, gets things ticking, then you got to do it. Got to make them happy, Blaine. Got to make them happy. Let's just, a lot of times, especially when people first start out, that they'll look at Blaine's work now and be like, "Holy shit, I can't do that. I quit." I did ask Blaine to send over his first ever Star Wars shot. And it's not really to make fun of him or anything. It's
please make fun of me.
It's to show how people grow if you put the time into this hobby. It can happen. For some people like myself, it takes years, if not maybe decades. But there is some growth. We'll look at some of Blaine's growth because we're going to look at his first Star Wars shot and then one of his Star Wars shots that he is proud of. And there's a few of them. I picked one that I guess I kind of liked myself, although you shared one that I would have shared here, and it was your the Star Wars remake of, what's the name of the song where Donald blasts the dude in the head, but you did it with young Lando and a stormtrooper.
Yeah, so Childish Gambino did This Is America, and I redid it with him because he plays Lando. It was perfect. And the caption was, "This is Corellia."
All right, but anyways, if you're on the live stream, here is Blaine's first ever toy shot, or Star Wars shot, I'm sorry, September 14th, 2015. And again, I wouldn't be too upset with this. Yes, it's a little basic. There's no real background. There's no flash. But you created a fucking comic, man. I mean, you told a story in this. It's better than my dumbass lining up a Funko Pop when I first started and taking a picture and be like, "Look what I did, everyone! Look at me."
Now, Matt, if we were to treat this as our there's a segment on our show, Blaine, where we'll solicit people to send us shots of theirs to critique. So Matt, if you had to treat this shot like that, what would be your critiques of Blaine's first Star Wars shot? I
mean, the posing is there. Like you definitely tell he understood posing back then. It's just it's kind of
a very early age.
It's a lack of atmosphere, a lack of a dynamic environment. You know. The middle row, though, I'll tell you what, the close up of Kylo's lit blade with Rey out of focus, that's a quality snap. You know, that's a good looking angle. But like I said, I mean, this is above and beyond just someone's first photography. You told a little comic strip here. There's nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
But you look at this
and keep in mind, this is my first Star Wars shot, not my first toy.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, first Star Wars shot. Sorry about that. And now we'll look at one of his favorites. And Blaine, I picked the Bespin scene, which you said was it just kind of worked out that this is your one of your favorite scenes from the films, one that stands out. It highlights your favorite character of Leia. But Blaine here, and I'd imagine that you just shot these. Is this a digirama? Is this like some work more or less action here? Or is this the Blainerthings where you just lined up the figures against your fucking refrigerator and then kind of stitched them into the Bespin carbon freezing chamber?
Yeah, so this was just, I think I had them. I try to pick colors that won't get lost, or that the figures won't get lost in, because then when you try to use superimpose, it deletes them as well. So I think this was on like a green screen or a red screen. Shot it with a phone. This was before I had a camera, so just an iPhone. And then I went to Google Image, found the carbonite freezing chamber, used that as my background and superimposed them on, and then used lens effects for the fog.
Awesome. At this point, Blaine, do you prefer doing all this stuff digitally and having to go in and spend the time to replace backgrounds and whatnot? Or let's just say money wasn't a thing. You had a huge house. You had guys like Visual Approach or Papa Palpatine that make these killer dioramas. I mean, if you had your choice, would you stick with your digital creations, or would you prefer to do more practical setups?
I would love to be able to do a combination of both. Right. I try to use setups when I can. And if I had more, when you look at my older stuff, I use a lot more setups and I integrate them. And this comes from being a conceptual artist and watching the details of movies and knowing that the best movies are the ones that you can watch and not be able to tell which parts are set and which parts are, added with CGI. So I think ideally I would love to have, maybe a dio piece where I shoot the figure with the dio piece and add the background, kind of expand the world.
And then, do all like the what could we call it? All the blaster bolts, the explosions, the sparks.
Oh yeah, if you look,
what do we call that? I mean, what is that? Like the pizzazz, the flare. There you go, the flare.
The flare. If you look down and not very far on my page, I had done a shot of Harley Quinn from Birds of Prey. I wanted it to be a practical shot, and I shot it with no, special effects, and I loved it. It was so good. I was so proud of myself. The lighting was on point. Well, at least for me, I was very proud of myself, and I went to post it. And when you look at the photo, it has like pink smoke and blue smoke and confetti falling. So I was looking at the shot, and I actually added the smoke and the confetti maybe 15, 20 minutes before I posted it. I was just looking at it and I was like, it's just not a Blainer thing.
Yeah, there you go.
It's just there. Like, it doesn't feel it when an artist adds their signature, that's what finishes it. And my signature is somehow drawing on a photo.
There she is. I finally found it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is a fantastic show. And your additions really do make it feel more in the world of Birds of Prey,
and back to his first shot, like it's that type of stuff, the flair that was missing from that comic panel of Rey and Kylo. It needed an extra piece of flair.
I learned my lesson.
There's a lot of artists that we have talked about on the show week over week, and they're like you mentioned, that's like your signature, and a lot of them have that signature. Papa Palpatine's is blowing somebody's head off or having somebody get shot through the face with something. And, that style that you mentioned, adding these little pieces of flair into it, this really does make it feel like your shot, and it puts your stamp on it. And you can't put that up anywhere without somebody knowing, hey, that's Blaine's shot.
I did the same thing, since this is a Star Wars show. I did the same thing recently. I did a shot of the scene where Quell was gunned down by the speeder bikes and dropped the child.
Yeah, pulled it up right now.
And I actually did that completely practical because the speeder bike comes with a Navarro background.
Ah, shit, so I threw mine in the trash. Damn it, Blaine.
Son of a bitch. I love saving backdrops to boxes. So that I was like, cool, I'm going to do a practical shot. Shot it, had the speeder bike in the background, had the background in the background. I sat there and I went out and I bought gravel, laid him in the gravel, wrapped the child in a little blanket, shot it, edited it, looked at it. It's like, fuck this. So I went into Procreate and I Blainified it. I made it into a Blainer thing.
That was perfect because while you were talking about the process, I was scrolling through every shot and it kind of hit that. It hit the child with his little blue blanket and you saw the background. Then you get to the end and you can see Blaine, he made that decision like, nope, I'm going to go ahead and digitize it.
I took these progress shots because I was like, this is going to be great. I'm going to show everyone that I can do, because I get a lot of flack for not doing practical.
Yeah.
A lot of people, there's a group of people who love to tell me that I have vanilla posing. So this was like my fuck you, and I was like, yeah, I can do a practical shot, and I can do it with great posing, and blah blah blah.
Gotta love them.
And then I was like, you know what? It's not me, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with vanilla posing, and I'm okay with digital backgrounds because that's who I am.
You've come to the right place. We have at least one toy photography therapy session a week on this show.
A week.
It's usually for me. It's usually for me because I'm always like, why do I do this? What's the point? I've wasted thousands of dollars of my kids' potential future on toys that I said I was going to shoot, but now they just lay on a black table and do nothing.
Yeah, that's why I just have a nephew.
We're here for each other.
We go through our top 5 of the week, and usually one of those shots in the top 5 will trigger Matt's response to say,
I suck. I'm the worst.
Man, why am I so terrible? It's like,
I look at Blaine stuff like, man, I wish I could be good.
Which is wild because I am like, and here's why I say be comfortable with your own style. I like my work better, and I think I produce better pieces when I keep the core of what I enjoy and my style. And I realize that I'm not a great photographer, and I'm okay with that. I look at my work and I know I have people comment, your work's mediocre. I know, I'm aware. That's why I'm rolling with 400, 500, 600 likes, and someone like Plastic Action has 20,000 likes. I get it. I know I'm not a photographer. I'm comfortable with this is my art. This is what I enjoy putting out. So just find your niche and stick with it.
Well said. That's something that took me a long time to come to grips with, because, you know, I'd always be like, hey, when I grow up, I want to be able to do like an Imperial grunt action shot, or I want to do a visual approach, crisp, clear, well-posed action shot. And it's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm grown up. If I just do portraits and I tweak lighting and I get some steam in there and it catches the light, that's Haywood Pop, and I am okay with that.
Yeah,
and I'm moving forward. Damn it, I'm moving forward.
I follow a lot of portrait pages. They're like you find what you're good at and you stick with it. I tried way too hard doing all different. Sometimes I nail it on a digiorama, but Jason's got it.
Yeah, he's nailed that. I mean, he is the king of digiorama. I still believe he's the one that coined the term. I know other artists have employed it. I've tried it myself. Plastic Action does it now. Jason B. Michaels. I mean, Jason B. Michael, he's always going to have a special place in my toy photography soul, because for some reason,
Matt's protege.
This guy literally, Blaine, came to me of all people when he started. He's like, hey, how do you do this or that? And I'm like, what the fuck are you looking at? Because my shit's dumb. Like, I just line it up and put a light on it. And now I see what Jason does, and it's like, my God. Some people just, they've got that creative mind, the imagination just flows, and then they can execute the vision. I lack the vision, and that's all right. I've come to terms with that in 2021. I've done 2 motherfucking shoots this year. I am coming out of my funk. I just don't share shots on Instagram. So
doing it.
I take the shots and then let them sit on my iPad. All right, now those have been, I think, some great advice Blaine is giving people, and really, I even have taken some of it to heart. He is right. I mean, there's nothing more important. If you're going to do this hobby, do it for you, not for the fucking algorithm, not to try and get money, not to try to get free figures, because if you do you, ultimately, it may yield those things you desire. But if you always are working towards trying to be someone else in any facet of life, it's not going to turn out the way you think. So that was a great tip. And Blaine, I'm really trying to get you out of here, buddy. I apologize, but anything else, like any other tips you would have for people, either, you know, starting out in maybe the conceptual design aspect of this hobby, or just toy photography in general? What are some things you wish, you know, Blainerthings 2021 told Blainerthings, you know, 2014, 2013? What are some tips that you think would really help someone that is either getting into this now, or been doing it, maybe struggling, looking for new motivation? What has turned you into this version of Blainerthings?
I would say, oh, this is a tough one. What would I tell my yesteryear, Blaine? Probably, I mean, like I said, find your niche, like sit down with yourself and find out, you know, what do you love? What do you love seeing? You know, what kind of content do you love seeing? And copy at first. There's no such thing as an original idea. So don't get butthurt. I have people who message me and like, oh, you copied my shot. No, the fuck I didn't. I copied a scene from Star Wars, you dipshit. So you copied a shot.
Yes.
You know, copy. That's how I started drawing. I was copying off of the comic book artists that I loved and the conceptual artists that I loved. That's how I started conceptually designing. I took a course in fashion design. You come up with one silhouette and you just trace it over and over again. Start with tracing. Start with copying. Copy the people that you enjoy seeing. And then through that, just don't lose who you are. Take those two things and say, this is who I am and this is who I want to be. For example, I want to make digital renderings with toys. Stick with that. Don't try the practical quill shots. Go in saying, okay, I'm going to do a mix, right? And keep doing it. I've given up so many times. There was a time, I think it was like last year, that this group got together on my page and started commenting on every single post. And it had kind of a bright side because I really dove into my conceptual design, but I didn't do toy photography for, I think, like 2 or 3 months. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. I don't like this community. It's just vile. And then you see, you know, you see the bright parts of the community. And that would be my last piece of advice, is just ask advice from people who like to share advice. Don't go asking advice to these elitist groups who tell you that you need to sign up for their group to know how to do their type of photography. That's awesome that they have this inclusive group where they can cooperate with each other, but what does that do for the world? It just makes you an elitist. Find people like Work More or Less, like, oh God, you're going to make me put people on the spot. Just people who want to share how they did it. You know, I want to share. If it's an old Jewish proverb, and my mother taught it to me as a child, and I live by it. Knowledge is like manure. It's not worth a damn unless it's spread all over the place, creating life.
Love it.
So,
love it.
Love that.
Yes.
Yeah. I get on my soapbox with that, but find people who want to share how to do things, because there are a lot of people who will freely and gladly give you the information for free. I love doing it. Hit me up.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, he just put it out there. You can contact at Blainerthings through the DMs. And like I said, if you follow him, you will not be disappointed, especially if you like watching him stomp on, as he calls them, the maggots. I love it. That's my favorite. I mean, I obviously I started following Blaine for his art form, but over this, you know, the 4 years of hell we went through, I really started to appreciate. I'd almost call it his comedy in his stories. But he is right. I mean, we know him. I mean, I could rattle off some. Work More or Less is definitely one. Black Series will reply to you. Plastic Action, in my case, would reply. I even think at this point in time, I probably should be asking Jason B. Michael tips on how to craft some of the scenes he's making.
Yeah, he loves to share things.
Sir Dork. Yep, Sir Dork will definitely put it out there. So don't be stingy, and don't feel like a loser to ask. I mean, I've got no qualms asking people. I mean, hey, I saw a light. What type of light? Okay, sweet. It's just a cheap desk lamp. It's not some expensive Lume Cube that's going to break in 2 days. And I know there's some Lume Cube ambassadors that listen here, but I have not had a fucking good experience with a single product they make.
I use my $1.99 Target tab.
I've seen them, bro. I love them. Like, you just put some AAA batteries in it, tap the top, and there you go.
That's what I do. Or I stand over there. My foot has like a ring light that I'm like balancing my iPhone.
It is,
my
man.
other light, and I'm like,
we all almost need to hire people to document what we look like doing this hobby, because I've done some crazy shit to try to pull off even just a basic shot where I'm holding like a hand steamer nozzle with my remote taped on it, so I can move the smoke and do the rapid shots at the same time, all while I have like a leg up on a chair, because I don't want this one thing to tip over out of the way. But it's a hell of a hobby, and you know, at Blainerthings really is a great member of the community, and it's the only social media I take part in anymore. I mean, I still need to figure out my exit strategy for Facebook. The only reason I even have that going still is because I fear if I delete Facebook, it's going to delete all my Instagram, because they're married to each other and Mark Zuckerberg will get pissed. But the only social media I get into outside of during the day when I have my doom scrolling crack up, because I can't break that habit yet, is Instagram. A, to look at Blainerthings stories, and then B, just to flip through and look at what the community has created, because I have never been disappointed with scrolling through my at Haywood Pop IG feed and just seeing the people that I follow and seeing the content that they put out. It's magical shit. So as we say goodbye to Blaine, I did ask him to kind of mention some of the accounts he looks up to. He's mentioned one of them, Work More or Less. The Imperial Grunt, at the Imperial Grunt, looks like he joined the show to check out his buddy. Visual Approach, who we love over here, used to be Captain Ordo.
Captain Ordo.
I think, and Southpaw. Southpaw's another one. I'm a huge fan of his work. He's a great customizer, awesome poser, and he's slightly demented, because a lot of his shots are usually some form of amputation.
I think that's why I love them.
I mean, it's at least once a week.
Asking them to do a Cara Dune one.
Fuck yeah, let's do it. He heard it.
Perfect.
Let's go. Let's put it out there. Come on, Southpaw. Let's go. We need a Cara Dune death scene, please. Preferably one of your ones where, you know, a head pops off or maybe an arm. All right, Blaine, it's been real. The peanut gallery, they're saying, man, keep them on for the whole show, but honestly, we probably have another hour and a half too. I don't want to tie up your whole day. I mean, you're more than welcome to stay, but we've got other topics to get into, plus the top 5 breakdown. So I'm going to let you get out of here because you did give us 2 hours of your time, and I am very appreciative.
Has it been 2 hours? Right. Cool.
Things, well, I guess that's probably a good sign. That means you probably had fun. You didn't realize how much time you were wasting with the Star Wars Time show.
Yeah, right.
But we're glad you're here.
Show.
The one thing I am going to hold your feet to the fire now that you've been on the show, you got to start tagging us and using hashtag Star Wars Time Show in your Star Wars work, buddy. Because otherwise, you know how the algo is. We're never going to see it. I know every once in a while on my personal, I'll see a shot pop up and I'll save it to share on Star Wars Time Show. But we'd love for you to get in on the fun with Work More or Less, all the others. Anything Star Wars you share at Star Wars Time Show, and then drop the hashtag Star Wars Time Show, just so we can always be aware of what at Blainerthings is putting out there into the galaxy.
You got it.
Deal? All right.
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right, Blaine, that was awesome, man. Much appreciated. Hopefully you become a fan, stick around, maybe tune in a little bit and see where this shit show goes from your interview. But it was fun, man. Perfect. It was fun. I appreciate it, and I can't wait until I get off here to see what you post on your story.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
All right. See you, Blaine. I got to figure out how to hang up here, and then we'll switch back to the show, my friends. I may end up hanging up on...
May end the whole show right here. Bye,
I very well could hang. Hey, Blaine, do you have a hang up on your end, maybe?
I'm sure I do. I'll figure it out.
See if you can like red circle your Skype, and maybe you'll just drop out. Because I think if I kill it, I'm killing Nick too.
All right, sounds good. See you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
And if he, all right, looks like he did drop out. Sweet. Well, that was nice, huh, Nick? You like that?
Yeah, that was a fantastic interview. I mean, Blaine was a more than gracious guest, giving us all the information on this stuff.
I feel horrible. I mean, I told him 45 minutes to an hour, but I do think in the end he was having a good time, right? I mean, otherwise, I think we would got a lot of humming and hawing or looking at his watch.
No, yeah. And I mean, he was so fun to have on. I enjoyed it. I know that, you know, Tones was throwing out there, keep him on for the top 5. I mean, maybe in future interviews for toy photographers, we can try to swing that where we just shove the top 5 up there and kind of have them there
that's
with
a good point. And I like I said, I mean, we're 2 hours in and we still got fucking our whole show to go.
We still got.
I'm probably going to be making some cuts or maybe cutting Nick off, and hopefully he cuts me off if we go too long. But that was fun. I kind of had a feeling we'd go long with Blaine. I can just tell with people. You know, call it the Force, whatever. I just had a feeling that Blaine, myself, and Nick, we'd hit it off and be able to have some good conversation. So hopefully those of you that were here for the live stream enjoyed it. You feel like your boys did you right. We're bringing you some alternative content to the show outside of our dumbasses just yelling and screaming about whatever weak Star Wars news we have to talk about during these dark times. So, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that we got here, we can really kind of blow through quickly. The only one that we'll probably hang on for a little bit is the KOTOR news. Yeah. But there's not, you know, again, this is a very kind of low week in terms of actual news happening in the Star Wars universe. And one of the pieces that we got to talk about to kick off is just that K2SO is not going to be in the Andor series at launch. It's kind of a surprise for some people. I know that in the Rogue One movie, he was the main companion to Cassian throughout the whole thing. But given the fact that this show is probably going to be more than a one season wonder, it's highly likely that we'll get the first season, which introduces us to Cassian as a person, and then potentially season 2 will bring in K2 as his companion again.
Yeah, you know, this sort of surprised me, Nick, because I mean, they did say, now I guess we shouldn't be too blown away or upset at this, because they did say we are going to get some, I believe, Andor as a child. We are going to get some younger Andor. So it does sound like season 1 may possibly solely focus on what happened to him as a kid to turn him into the person we meet in Rogue One, and we won't quite get to where he, you'd have to imagine, has a run-in with K2, disables him, brings him back to the Rebel Alliance, and they somehow unfuck his mind and make him an expert clothesliner. Yeah.
And I think that, you know, we were talking, we actually mentioned this to Blaine pre-show. A lot of these actors, you know, they're holding stuff close to the chest. They're trying not to spoil things. And it could very well be that towards the end of season 1 is where you get that first initial meeting. Like you get the scene where Cassian and one of his buddies is infiltrating an Imperial base, and then bang, they run into K2.
That'd be a good cliffhanger, right? Like they come into it, it just ends and you pick up season 2.
I think that would be a really cool way to do it. But the K2 character is definitely not to be left out of a Cassian series if it extends past one season.
Yeah,
that's
that
for sure.
would be that would be, you know, they're just asking for outrage at that point, because those characters in my mind, they're Han and Chewie, right? I mean, they're the same thing. It's the same kind of partnership, just different wingman. I mean, one is a walking carpet, the other is a bucket of bolts, for, you know, lack of a better term there. And we do need to see their first meeting, and it is a little bit of a bummer that it's not going to happen, but that just means we're going to get more, hopefully more backstory, which is just always going to expand upon the world of Star Wars, maybe introduce other new characters that could one day become iconic, like K2 himself. I mean, it's not like, I mean, Nick, it's not like when we were getting the promos for Rogue One and we saw this droid, we're like, oh fuck, man, he's easily the next big time droid. He'll be up there with BB-8 and R2 and C-3PO. We didn't know. No. It was the way they wrote him, and then obviously the way Tydak acted him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this duo, even though they literally only were in one movie and then died at the end, has literally become the next Han and Chewie. I mean, that was the one thing we asked for in Solo, was like, we need to see the Han and Chewie meeting. It's necessary. And I think that's kind of the same thing that everybody wants out of this Cassian Andor series, is to see the meeting of these two now fan favorite characters. We need to see it on screen. We need to see how it played out, and how K2 went from basically Imperial security droid that would have killed Cassian in an instant to one of the best, you know, rebel soldiers you could have. So, and
like I said, he would have had a very promising career in the WWE if he wanted to.
Absolutely. He could have thrown anybody out of a ring.
Floored Jin, just like, clock!
Yeah.
See ya.
We are saving
Jin meets
you.
Steel Arm.
That is a very good meme image too. That little scene, I've seen it pop up a couple of times.
Yeah, speaking of memes, how about first? I guess, you know, we might as well mention the Discord community, because we didn't, you know, we had Blaine on the start, so we didn't have our little kind of coffee time with Matt and Nick. But the Discord server's growing. I think we're up to 31 members. It's still pathetic. Yes. I mean, come on, you guys know my numbers. We need hundreds, thousands. I want it to be crazy in here. I want this live chat to be going so fast it gives me a seizure.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up.
But we learned that we have someone took the youngest fan title from Liam. I don't know if you saw that, Nick.
Oh no, I didn't.
Chewbacca's left nut has taken the crown as the youngest Star Wars Time Show fan.
Oh my! I didn't.
I believe
with a name like Chewbacca's left nut, I was assuming
I believe
older.
Mr. Left Nut is only 14. So
don't tell his
We're
parents.
basically going to jail. But luckily, he's down in Australia, I believe, and I don't think they care about swear words down there, so we should be good to
No,
go.
not in Australia. You can swear as much as you want. But we've also, by request of, I believe it was Chewie's Left Nut, requested a Star Wars.
There we go. That's where I was
channel.
going. The old bleh. I had a little brain fart. Thanks, Nick.
So by his request, I created the Star Wars memes channel, and it has become one of the most active channels.
I woke up this morning, tones went nuts. Like I think it was Spencer kicked off like, "Hey, say sexual things, but using Star Wars quotes," and it was just like blah 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 blah, and they're actually really great. And I was telling Nick, I mean, we've talked about this before. We're like, let's just start sharing memes. Who cares if we create them or not? And now Nick has a repository Star Wars
now I
memes.
can just go in and pull some of the memes. We shared some Bernie, like last week was our Bernie / Star Wars
the
memes.
Bernie on the Berg, I think just our share got like 1,500 likes. So
yeah, that might be close to one of the highest likes that we've ever gotten on the shit.
you gotta like we gotta convince Nick to do one meme a day. So you motherfuckers keep providing the content for us, because we can't do that, but we got to work on Nick taking the 2 seconds to post the stuff you guys steal, so we can steal it and post it on ours.
I threw up 3 last week, or 2 last week. I got the
you
Bernie,
got going, but then you hit the weekend, and then that's when you break out the 40 ounces, and we don't see Nick until Tuesday.
The entire weekend. Yeah, I was.
He's
gone.
playing Edward 40 hands, right? Everyone remember that game?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, hey, Andor, no K2. That's a bummer, but I'm still excited for it. I like the era it's set in. We're still in a very unexplored part of the timeline, back in the Solo-ish, Kenobi-ish, early Rebels-ish. So it should be fantastic content, especially based on what we've seen from the sizzle reel. I mean, live action, volume. We were talking about the set last week. I mean, they built a whole fucking town. So they're going at it for Andor.
I'm excited. I'm really excited for the show. And, regardless of whether K2's in there or not, you're going to get a lot of good Rebel espionage in it. And
I mean, that's the other great. We could see that shadier, seedier side of the rebellion. Because I don't know about you guys, but the first time I saw Rogue One and you literally see Cassian assassinate his informant, that was something new for Star Wars. Like, the Rebels didn't do that type of shit.
They were always the plucky band of good guys who were doing nothing but, the right thing to right the universe. And then all of a sudden you see the dark side of the rebellion, and fuck, I mean, even with with bringing in Saw Gerrera and his little splinter cell of even more deranged rebels who were going out there and literally just picking off Imperials and torturing them.
That was the crux of the mission that almost, drove Jyn and Cassian apart. I mean, Cassian was essentially sent to murder her dad at all costs.
Yeah. It's pretty fucking crazy. So I'm glad that they decided to spin that one off, because I think there is a very interesting backstory to be told for that character. And, potentially you do get other characters that were in animated. I mean, you could see Hera, you could see Kanan, you could see a lot of the Rebels. I think
Hera is a no-brainer to loop into the later part of Andor, I would think. Mm-hmm. I mean, she becomes such a huge part of the Rebel Alliance. I mean, I'm going through Rebels again, and you see how it happens. She initially just kind of joins in with Phoenix Squadron, and then she becomes the captain, and we know ultimately she's General Syndulla, I believe, by the Battle of Endor. So a lot of that stuff could be explored in the Andor show for sure.
Absolutely. Good to see Blaine jumped in the chat too.
He couldn't get enough, man. We're like herpes. Once you get it, it's hard to get rid of the Star Wars time show. It might go away, it might go dormant, but it'll flare up and
it'll pop back up again.
Next, and this might shock some people, but we got a story on some words and shit. And I actually put this up, and Nick, I may grab this book, but last week, come on, Leia the cat, not yet.
We can see her little tail. I know
she's like doing her poke up thing. Last week, we learned that a biography is coming out for the Skywalkers called Skywalker: A Family at War. And
is there not a more perfect title?
I know,
for that?
It is pretty good. And it's written by Kristen Baver, who I believe works for the official StarWars.com. She does one of the things that I believe either myself or Nick should be doing, but it's okay. She got there first. We'll give it to her. But Nick, what this is, it's not so much your standard words and shit about the Skywalkers, okay? It takes a biographical approach to science fiction, which intrigues me a bit. Yeah. It's kind of putting a real life spin on this space fantasy that we love.
Yeah.
And she's going to...
I mean, this can kind of turn into like... For people generations, millennia from now, they can find this book buried somewhere, and they could literally start their own religion off of it.
Yeah, you would think so, because the quote here is, This biography is going to examine the events that unfolded in the Skywalker saga on screen, as well as through books, comics, and other canonic blah blah. I can't say canonical storytelling to give a detailed account of the lives of key members of the family amid their travails and triumphs. So the text itself is going to encompass the prequel era. So, I mean, it's going to be getting into Shmi Skywalker. And again, it's not telling stories. It's going to be biographical information, which, again, not real. But for Star Wars fans that kind of like the lore, to dig into the history of the most famous family in that galaxy that is so far, far away, I think it could be a fun read.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it will give you all of the, I mean, like, you know, maybe some of the stuff we know just from watching and listening and reading and everything like that. But guaranteed there's going to be additional context added into a lot of these things, giving you even potentially like the inner monologue of some of these characters at some points in their life. You know, like what is Anakin thinking the first time he meets Obi-Wan Kenobi? What is Anakin thinking? And, you know, during his fall and these meetings with the Emperor, it gives you even more context into what we've always wanted, especially from the Vader side of things. Like, what is Vader's mindset? This is the book that's going to give it to you.
Yeah, and just another quote again. This is, you know, what we should expect. So from the outset, I knew I wanted to treat the family as if they were real people with compassion and empathy, while simultaneously crafting an unflinching portrait of their accomplishments and their failures. These characters are larger than life, yet so fragile and unmistakably human, and that comes into focus when you study how their actions impact the greater galaxy and their family. I mean, let's be real. The only fragile Skywalkers are the men. Right? Yeah. Anakin is fucked up in the head, and so is Luke, we learned. He can't deal with emotions either. Leia was fine.
Yeah, Leia, even Shmi, like, you know,
I mean, she moved on. I mean, she was a fucking slave. You thought she would have been all depressed. She's like, nah, she hooked up with another dude, moved to a moisture farm. It just so happened that, you know, she got kidnapped by sand people, but she wasn't a little whiner.
No, yeah, she was a very strong, I mean, single mother for a very long time. So.
But we do actually on the site. I mean, there's not really much to say, but Amazon had some excerpts. So as Nick was saying, you can kind of get an idea of how it is written. And she does. It's not so much that you're going to be getting the character's point of view, but she's explaining their point of view for us. And this one, I believe, is Anakin's thoughts on his love and loss of Padme. So I think it's an interesting read. Like Tone's right here. He jumped on it. He's pre-ordered. He's got it coming April. I think it's dropping April 1st or early April. It looks like it's going to have images throughout the saga, be it comic books, animation, movies. So if you're into more of the educational, I guess, Star Wars words and shit, Skywalker, A Family at War. And you can grab it from our site, and we may actually make about a half a penny.
Yeah, you know, we get a little bit of that money
that
from
Amazon associate commission going and shit.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, available now for pre-order.
Nick, I'm an
April 6th.
I'm an idiot. I just closed our next topic, so
there we go. Our next topic, don't worry, I got you, is the new KOTOR game that's in development.
All right, here we go. Yes, our site still loads, so we got it. There we go.
There we go. It's still up there. It still works, StarWarsTime.net. She's not dead
Not yet. We've been throwing a lot at her today. I mean, hell, we had a 3-man stream for almost 2 hours. I can see smoke starting to come out of my iMac. Like the hamsters are like, yo, dude, we didn't sign up for this shit.
What the fuck are you doing?
This is an interesting one. This is where our question of the week, which clearly was a shitty question because we didn't get many responses, but there's reports out there that a new KOTOR game, for those of you not in the know, that is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, one of the greatest Star Wars games ever made, one of the greatest early 2000s action RPGs ever made. But we've learned... I don't even want to give the people credit because I'm not a huge fan of them, but we learned that a KOTOR game apparently is in development. But the interesting thing here, it's not so much that they're doing something KOTOR. The interesting thing is that it's potentially not being developed by EA and BioWare. BioWare being the developer that created the franchise and EA being the publisher that now owns BioWare. So it is a little odd.
Yeah. So what's really interesting now is that as the story has kind of matured through the last few days, there's like conflicting things being said. Some people are now saying that this is a full-blown remake of KOTOR 1, while initially it was thought that this was a new entry into the KOTOR franchise. It would be even more surprising to know that they're doing a full-on remake of KOTOR 1 and it's not BioWare. I mean, to my knowledge, if you're going to, I mean, yes, studio licenses end, and technically Lucasfilm Games and Lucasfilm owns the Knights of the Old Republic IP. It's their game, it's their license. It would be very surprising to see a studio who's not BioWare essentially remake that game. The only other studio that's ever worked on...
Nick, that's actually a great point. So are you thinking, because that was our question of the week, and we'll obviously get into it. I was asking more, what do they want? But asking you, do you just think at this point, because it's not BioWare and EA, it's definitely not going to be a remake?
I hope it's not a remake. I lean towards it not being a remake, because at this point, everybody's played it, and yeah, of course, I would like to go back and play it again with shinier graphics and everything like that. But unless you're going to make significant changes to how that game functions, which is really the thing that's aged the worst about it,
it's clunky as fuck. It's clunky as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, even going back to play it on a console or like on my PC, which I was doing before, the combat itself does feel relatively
I'm not gonna lie though, Nick, as a lazy ass like myself, I do still like the timed
cue it up.
I fucking love that, man. I love it.
Yeah, but if you were to go back, like say if you were to give it to like a Larian or some other studio out there who is known for making action or RPGs or just standard RPGs, if they were to take it and then rebuild the game engine on it and then restyle the combat, then I think that would be worth it. But I don't necessarily want a new a new version of an old game. I want the story continuation. Yeah. And I said last week that we're likely not going to get a KOTOR thing. Clearly, I was wrong because I assumed that they would keep that with EA.
You can't win every week, Nick. You did have the good prediction a week before, and then you failed the week after. It just comes with the territory.
Yeah, and KOTOR 2, which was made by Obsidian Games, is now owned by Xbox. So that's almost surely not the developer. And from what we've heard, from Jason Schreier and from other people out there in the game space,
we'll never guess who it is.
Yeah, that will never guess who it is.
Bungie.
And that would be fucking hilarious if it was Bungie. They are independently owned now. Like, they're not tied to Activision. They're not tied to Microsoft in any way. They do their own thing. But what may tip the hand here is that, like you said, you'll never guess it. It's not a household name. More often than not, those really, I don't want to say small, but those lesser known studios are better known for essentially ports or remakes. Right. So it wouldn't surprise me if they did do that. It is interesting though. I mean, I don't want a remake. I want a KOTOR 3. Star Wars: The Old Republic, which is, in that universe, happens 300 years after the original KOTOR. So there's still a lot of time. Yeah,
you would like something in between KOTOR and SWTOR.
Exactly. That's what my aim is.
I guess, and we'll get into more of these because that was a fan question of the week. And what do you want, a remake or something new? And I guess I should have been clear because I think it was the latest Jay and Silent Bob movie, which starts a little slow but then gets right into Kevin's type of humor, and it's not bad. But there's a whole skit, a whole scene on remakes versus a remaster versus a reboot. And he makes a great point, Kevin does, through the dialogue. I guess asking about a remake is different than asking about a remaster. I would love a remaster of KOTOR 1. I want it in 2021 game engine visuals. Okay. I don't even care if you fix the gameplay. I just want the game to look and sound like 2021.
That
to me would be a full-on remaster, right? Or no?
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. So you're looking at a remake as like almost like a reboot, like
well,
go back
no,
to.
I'm looking at it as exactly what I said for remaster. I'm just stupid and put remake.
Okay,
but I think people understood what I was saying. Now I'm just getting dumb and getting like nuanced with Jay and Silent Bob 2 script shit. But I'd say I was more asking about a remaster to make it look pretty. Not necessarily remake it and change the gameplay, just, you know, put the lipstick on the pig thing. Yeah,
and I think that there's, like, to a degree, there is value in doing that because it introduces the game to a completely new audience who should know this game. Like, if you know one Star Wars game in history, it should probably be
without
this
a doubt.
One because
without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, because this not only brought Star Wars storytelling in video games to a new level, it also expanded the universe in a completely unknown and unthought of
Nick,
way.
I think you said the more important thing. At the time when this was made, games like this didn't exist. Having player choice that could affect the outcome and your relationships and your mission types, this was groundbreaking, at least for consoles at that time. Because when did this come out? Is this like 2001,
2003, I believe.
Yeah, I know it was on the big old black Xboxes where I first played it. So it is. So I'm with you. I obviously what we're talking about here, a new KOTOR game in development. I want it to be brand new. I would love it to, as Nick said, continue on. You know, maybe you hear about the events with Revan and Malik. Maybe you hear about the events with the Triumvirate. But you're executing, you're going on an entirely new journey. So I'm with you there. But I'm not gonna lie, I would still, as many times as I've played this game, and I'm still slowly, I'm on like a year-long replay on the iPad. I do want a nice, shiny 2021 non-cyberpunk glitchy version of KOTOR.
Yeah, and it could be that too, because we know recently Star Wars, like official Lucasfilm and Star Wars, and everybody's been going through and shooting down all these fan remakes. Like you had a fan remake that was happening in Unreal 4 that had been in development for like 2 years, and they essentially put the kibosh on it.
I mean, obviously it would cost them a fair amount of money, as anything does these days, but you'd think it would not be as big of a risk or investment as a brand new game. Because here they know they have almost a 20-year built-in audience of schmoes like Nick and I that have bought it probably 3, 4, 5 times on multiple platforms. That would open up the wallets or pull down our pants and say, "Slide it in, pal. We'll take it." Another version of it.
Like, please just give us something. So, yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I don't think that we're going to get. Like, this definitely wasn't an official announcement. This was more of a leak / rumor.
You think
but
we'll start to get more fleshed out information closer to the spring when a lot of the video game industry goes into its trade shows, if you will? I think GDC would be the first coming up in March here.
I think so. I think we may get an official announcement on it at the very least. And then along with the official announcement would, of course, come the studio that's doing the developing. And hopefully at that point we will get whether it is a remake or a continuation of the story.
Nick, this is still a non-celebration year, right?
Yeah,
celebration pushed to 2022.
2022, because it was supposed to be last year in Anaheim.
And then I think the reason they're not doing this year because this is one of their big D23 years, if I'm not mistaken. And apparently so maybe we'll get something at D23. But if we are going to get anything concrete, I would say earliest E3. March, but probably if E3 still exists and they do anything for it, probably June. If you don't get it in June, then this project is still in its infancy state and is not ready to be shared with the world yet. So
yeah, it is. I mean, essentially though, what this does, if this is true, you now canonize the entirety. Like, if this is a follow-up, you immediately canonize the other two games, because there's no way for you to put out a sequel to these two games without saying the events of the two previous games happened.
In my mind, Nick, once they started charging people money or put them in a game where people could pay money for it, being Swigo, They're fucking canon. I mean, even light side Revan is canon at this point because of that damn game. So I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
Yeah. So this is essentially the news that everybody wanted, that we're getting some sort of KOTOR, whether it be a follow-up or a remake. We're getting KOTOR.
Good news all around, either way. If it's one or the other, I don't think Star Wars fans that know about this franchise are going to be upset.
Yeah, exactly. So just perfect. I hope it comes out that it is a sequel, but I will not be upset if we get a full blasted fucking PS5 ready, beautiful looking KOTOR remake. I will play that for, multiple hours.
Come on. I'm dying for that, because even the janky one on iPad where they do up-res it a bit, it's got the core of what KOTOR was when it first released. It really does drive you to keep playing. It just, I'm glad controllers finally work with iPads now. And if you do play on an iPad or your phone, you can cast it right to a TV. So, I mean, you technically can play one of the better looking versions of it now on a big screen with a console controller. Or I know you PC Master Racers, it probably already looks the best over there. You're so awesome.
I think that on PC, like the way that the Steam modding community works for that game is they've had people that have gone in and built like up-res texture packs.
Yeah, so
probably
you can just download it looks like the remastered version. We're sitting here circle jerking ourselves over, but I'm still never going to get a PC rig, so oh well.
Yeah.
But we'll keep an eye out, and then here in a little bit, we'll kind of hear what some of the fans were wanting or their desires on this. It was kind of split. There's some like me, some like Nick. But like I said, I would take both. I want that remaster just for the nostalgia's sake. But I love anything new. And as we were saying last week, when we know that we're hopefully going to get this open world Star Wars game that we've all dreamed about, anything like that is good news for me. So let's do it. Yeah. Let's do it. All right. Nick, I think this one might have fell through the cracks. The stamps. I'm going to go to the stamps.
Yeah, let's do the stamps. I mean, I didn't know about this. Came out today,
yeah, so that's why you don't see it on the iconic StarWarsTime.net homepage. We're just on StarWars.com, which is a lesser known Star Wars website than ours, but every once in a while they have some good content. But I don't know. I mean, we do a show. A lot of collectors listen to the show. We like art. We like real ass paint. I'm always intrigued in something that's going to, cause people stress and anxiety if they're a collector. So it was announced today that the U.S. Postal Service is going to be releasing a new series of Star Wars stamps, all devoted to our favorite galactic droids.
Dude, I love that, because it's so easy to go with like, oh, we're going to do the Skywalker family, or we're going to do the big name characters, but no. They fucking jump in and they say, you know what? We're doing the droids. We're doing the droids that some of you may not even know the names of. We're bringing in 2-1B. We're bringing in Chopper. For those of you who didn't watch Rebels, guess what? He's really awesome.
Gonk.
We're doing Dio, Gonk. I mean, all the ones that they chose were really awesome. I'm glad that this is droid focused. And honestly, like the renderings that they have up here, these look fucking really good.
Nice
high
pieces.
quality
I mean, I'm not kidding. There is a huge stamp collecting community out there. That's one aspect of collecting I never got into, just like coin collecting, but it's still the same thing. You're trying to build a full set of something to look at and go, ooh, I like it. It makes me happy. It makes my nipples hard. I mean, that's why we do this stuff in the end. But as Nick said, a lot of the droids are in there, and let's be real. Any Star Wars fan worth their salt knows that the droids in any Star Wars project are the true heroes. Without the droids, the meatbags are dead multiple times. I mean, we can trace back. There would be no meeting of Padme and Anakin without R2-D2. Padme would be dead. All right? Luke Skywalker again. He'd be dead multiple times without R2-D2. Remember, R2 had to fix his deflectors or whatever the fuck they were in the Battle of Yavin. I mean, R2 probably has the most Boy Scout medals for saving lives.
In Episode 3 takes out all those fucking, the B2 battle droids, sends has the comm link for Anakin and Obi-Wan. Like he
without
was
R2, how does Luke get his green lightsaber when he's trying to kill Jabba the Hutt? I mean, come on. But we got the droids, and here I'm going to scroll through. BB-8's going to have one. Why do you think the Forever USA is scratched out? Is that like just a new style that UPS is doing because their budget has been cut to everything, and it's weird.
Yeah, I don't.
But anyways, BB-8 is going to be on one. Of course, Goldenrod's going to be there. And that Goldenrod looks like a fucking Hot Toys picture they just plugged on top of a stamp.
Yeah, it's very possible.
My man Chopper. I still think Chopper is one of the best astromechs. He's such an ornery asshole. Love him.
Yeah, he's
Dio. Yeah, whatever. Dio. There's the Gonk. You gotta love the Gonk. IG-11.
IG-11.
Yeah, you gotta feel bad for 88. You know. 11,
I know,
11
right?
gets,
IG-88 just gets completely
he's gone.
forgotten.
Like he's been basically overwritten in the IG line of iconic droids in Star Wars because of really Kuiil changing the programming of IG-11.
Yeah.
Then we got 2-1B. That's the droid that saved Luke a couple times, gave him a new hand, gave him a back to bath. There's our boy we were talking about earlier, K2.
K2.
Lee. She runs the Falcon.
Lee,
and there's our little man right there. R2 of D2. R2 Sir D2.
Yeah, man. I like all their choices too, because I mean, there's a lot that they didn't put in there. But I like the ones that they did
I guess
choose.
the reason they went with this, and I always love this because I'm in the STEM fields, but this was all to, these droids are a nod to Lucasfilms, as well as its parent company, Disney's commitment to science, technology, engineering, and math. Stuff that is factual and you can prove in black or white.
Yep. Very good cause.
Facts are good, science is better. Thank you.
All right. So are those stamps available now? Are they?
I mean, why would we tell people that, Nick? We just pull shit up and vomit all over it and then move on. It does not look like it is the
spring 2021.
Yeah, there you go. It's coming in a pane of 20, so it's not like you have to worry about getting each one. You can probably just go and be like, "Yo, I want the Star Wars set." There you go. And then you can use them or collect them, frame them, do whatever you want. I know Scion, he likes framing boxes and stuff, so he'd probably like these stamps.
That was a pretty cool idea.
He's doing it too.
Spring 2020.
He's actually, I believe Scion is hunting down boxes to buy from people just to create the mural. I could be.
Well, maybe
he can
get in touch with some of our.
Well, I wish I remembered that
Blaine.
because
I don't know if Blaine's a box guy.
No, I'm not, because every time I get a box, if I can rip it open and throw it out, I guess I should start saving my Black Series boxes for Scion. Sorry, buddy. All right, before we get into the fan segment, we do have a little toy collecting thing. Remember, we used to open with the toy collecting, but now we save it closer to the fan segment. But last week was a expensive week for myself, Nick, and it kind of got initiated by the reveal that Hot Toys has a 1/6 scale Dark Trooper figure to collect now.
These motherfuckers look badass.
Yeah, so when I saw that, I was like, all right, yeah, that's going to the wave. And once I got on the site, you know, we checked them out. It's a fairly basic figure for, I think, $260. It's a larger figure, but you're not getting a ton with it, which makes sense. I mean, they didn't have much on them. They're essentially Star Wars Terminators. So really all you get is their GAT. I think their heads light up. You get some interchangeable hands, but I had to add this figure to my set. No, dude, Blaine. No, Blaine. We're not. We can't do that here. No way am I getting into army building with 1/6 scale. I can't do it. I know some of you do it. It's just bad. I can't do it. So please, please don't put those thoughts into my head. I'll try like Blaine taught us, and I'll try doing my layering and stuff and just take multiple shots of the same figure to make it look like I have a bunch, right? Right, everyone? I can do it. Yeah. I can do it digitally. But anyways, I had to pre-order this guy, and once I was on Sideshow, I was like, shit, I forgot how to... No, not how to. I will never forget how to blow money on Star Wars toys. But I forgot all the other Mandalorian 6 scales that they announced around Christmas time.
No.
So, Nick, I get in there with this guy. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a pre-order. Cha-ching, layaway plan, because that's the best way to do it. And then I was like, oh, shit, I forgot. They released the Shore Troopers. Hey, look at that. There's 2 versions. There's the regular Shore Trooper and the Lieutenant. pre-order. And I was like, oh, fuck, that the tank commander that's technically Din, even though you don't get a Din head sculpt with it. Well, I got all the other Mandalorian 1/6 scale. You can't leave him out. Pre-order. Before you knew it, I had 4 Hot Toys pre-ordered, 4 NRD deposits committed on my Discover card, $100 basically of non-refundable deposits, and a bill,
and $1,000 in pre-orders.
Easily $1,000 in pre-orders. On top of, and this is what really kind of made me check myself in the toy rehab. I went and looked at all my other open orders from Sideshow. I don't even want to tell you how many I have open on top of the 4 I just added.
Oh no!
Let's just say it is in the high teens of open Hot Toys orders on top of adding 4 to it.
Matt took like a mental hiatus from the toy collecting and toy photography, and he thought that the mental hiatus just canceled all his pre-orders for him. And then he goes in to see, oh no, my God, 2021 is going to be a big year.
But I just these things just look so damn great, and as I said, I have started doing shoots again with the Hot Toys just so I can put them in their nice little glass homes, so I can really appreciate them. And I don't know what was going on this Saturday, but it was the first time I just kind of sat down in my basement and looked at my shelves with the lights on, with most of my Hot Toys put away, and I was like, you know what? As much as these things give me heartburn when I'm doing the toy shoots or knowing how much I've spent on them, when I do see them lined up here, being a hardcore Star Wars fan, it's like looking at a collection of little art pieces. And I was like, you know what, fuck it. I do like this shit. And I was catching little Charlie. She'd be down here just plopped in front of the cases, just looking at them, just staring at them in awe, like, it's like church, all right? This is my church now, is looking at my Hot Toys figures. Yeah, look at Blaine's in here. They get more. They're Cylons. They are very Cylon-ish looking. There's no doubt about it.
They do.
But I think they had better dubstep music than the Cylons from BSG. Yeah, but these are out there. You can, like I said, you can pre-order them $260 a pop. You've got time. I mean, a lot of these Mando figures are not coming out until 2022. So to me, it's basically like you're not even spending money on it. You just commit to buy it. Once the payment plans kick in, it's usually a year or so down the road, and you're like, hey, fuck it. I just got charged from Sideshow again. I guess I'm getting a figure soon.
Yeah, it's like, hey,
that's what I mean. Layaway or bust, man. Because when you do layaway, the pain just isn't the same, even though you're spending the same amount of money in the end. It's just
I agree.
You break it out over a couple months versus the wad, it just makes it way more justifiable.
Yeah, way easier. So, I mean, that's the last piece of news before our fan segment. And like Matt mentioned, and like we were talking about earlier in the show, our fan segment is kind of focused on, our fan question is focused on the KOTOR, either remake or new game. So we put out the question, or Matt put out the question, do you want the rumored KOTOR game to be a remake or a full-on new experience set in the new era? Explain. So Matt, do you want to, we got OACs here, like you mentioned, OAC jumped in for this one. Do you want to read the OAC response, and then I'll take the rest?
Yeah, it's good, because I got to take a piss, so perfect time. And somehow the scene's all broken real quick, so I'll read his, I'll fix the scene, I'll take a leak, and we'll be on.
You don't need to see me. That's
it's not,
okay.
No, it's literally, it's like Slack now, for some reason, covers everything at the bottom of the page. I love you, OBS, thank you. All right, so OAC, it's good to have him back, dropping a comment for the show here. So for this one, I say new experience. I want the remakes of KOTOR so badly, but I'd love to see another storyline unfold as well. KOTOR era was more than just Revan and Malak, so why not tell more? Yeah. I just want them to make sure it's seriously the Old Republic and High Republic. The Jedi didn't start when Yoda was younger, as High Republic seems to take place, so let's just get the timeline right. Haha. But as I still really want the remakes, been waiting for years. So, I mean, OAC kind of took my approach, where definitely want the remasters, remakes, but new stuff, it would be appreciated.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like he mentioned, and if you played KOTOR 2, which introduced, you know, it's not just Malak, like you said, it introduced Traya and Sion and Nihilus and these other factions of, you know, the Sith Empire and all of these other antagonists that are in the universe at the same time, he's right. There's a lot of stories to tell beyond just like, hey, Darth Malak is a bad guy, I got to take him out. Darth Revan was a bad guy, you're Darth Revan. So yeah, I totally agree that there's a lot of room for expansion of stories being told here, especially, you know, because of the characters that were already established and that we could see pop back up. So totally agree there. Next up is Papa Palpatine, our good friend.
I'll let you go with
Palpatine
our boy Papa, because it's leaking. I'm out.
All right. So he says, depends on who's in control. If John or Dave oversee it, I'm fine with whatever they do. If not, I'll take the remake. So Papa doesn't trust anybody, any other creators other than John or Dave at this point. If not, he'll take the remake. And I don't think, just to, you know, I hate to shoot you down so quickly, Papa. I don't think that John and Dave are going to get too invested into the video game or the storytelling on the video game side of things. If they do, I mean, fucking all the better. But it's probably not going to be John or Dave. It will probably be somebody you have never even heard of, honestly. Like, it'll be a writer for whoever the studio is that's working over there, that's gotten their script or their story approved by whoever needs to approve it at Lucasfilm to get it done, but probably not going to be a John or Dave project.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great. And in our dreamland, Nick, to me, Dave Filoni is the story group. Everything would need to at least be ran by him to make sure it checks all the boxes. But these gentlemen are not going to get mixed up in game design, game narrative. They have their bread and butter right now. I mean, that is going to be the Mando timeline and all the shows that are going to kind of create that revolve around that timeline. So they're busy. And like we said, I don't think Dave is done with animated Star Wars either. So there's a good chance he'll be working on another animated project as well.
Yeah. If anything, I hope, and I don't know if they've reached out to him, I hope they get back in contact with the original creator of Revan and Malak, and that is Drew Karpyshyn, who had, you know, he worked on those games. He also wrote the Darth Bane trilogy of books as well. I mean, he is a fantastic creator of villains for Star Wars. And if they were to expand the narrative, I would hope that they would at least consult him, or, you know, if not, just straight up hire him. So next up, we got Lima 4 Photos. He's in the chat right now.
It's early, wherever Lima's at, Philippines or whatever.
It's early for Lima. I think he said it was like 5:30 in the morning, and then Tones dipped out because it was getting late over there.
I'm glad Blaine kind of jumped in the chat to just see the great reaction he's gotten. I mean, at this point, Nick, I think you and I can quit the show. Yeah, I know. They've essentially said that Blaine is the new host of the Star Wars Time Show. We don't need to do it anymore. They definitely like the interviews, and I guess having all three of us was the ticket. So we do appreciate the feedback. Yeah. We try. The next thing I want to do is, the next time we get an interviewer, is to challenge them, to have them challenge somebody else to come on and do an interview. There you go. That's a good idea. So we get the organic. Yes. We get the organic rolling, and then, you know, Blaine throws out like, you know what? I challenge you, Jason B. Michael, to come on the Star Wars Time Show, and that's how. Then we don't even have to do. I mean, everyone. You do know that Nick is a social media marketing expert. So you know. Yeah. I just got to get him to start marketing the Star Wars Time Show. Yeah, so that's the next time we get somebody on. I do like that, like throwing down the gauntlet. All right, you pussy. Can you sit in the hot seat for almost 2 hours with these two idiots? There we go. See, easy. So Lima says, I'd be okay with either, but somehow I'd lean towards a remake a bit more than something totally new. Maybe a few tweaks at most, maybe some Easter eggs here and there that somehow tie into the High Republic stuff. It will, if it will make sense. So going with a remake with some tweaks, kind of like we talked about a little bit earlier, maybe changing the combat system a little bit, maybe updating the graphics for sure, but maybe, just taking some of those older game mechanics that were new back in 2003, updating them for 2021 timeline. I don't know about Easter eggs for High Republic. We're talking unless they course correct, we're talking Not hundreds of years,
30.
like thousands of years, right?
Yeah, you're talking like 32 to 30, like 3,200 years between High Republic and Old Republic.
Thousands.
Yeah, so multiple thousands of years. I don't know. I mean, they could if you just wanted to drop in like
as much as I don't want to say it, I'm pretty sure the High Republic was created so Disney could have their hooks fully into a somewhat historical take on the galaxy versus going full on to the KOTOR era. Yeah.
So, it'll be interesting to see if they do kind of throw in some new Easter eggs. I mean, they can do it. Of course they can do it. They can throw in Easter eggs anywhere, and it doesn't have to be relevant to the timeline, but could happen. Next up, Impala Austin, who is Big Amish, I believe, right? Is that Big Amish?
You keep going. I'm good. No.
Okay. So Impala Austin says, well, I'm a FAF, fake-ass fan. I've yet to play any of them.
Fake-ass fan.
Oh, my God. I mean, that does hurt my soul a little bit that we have a follower of the
I've
Star
gathered,
Wars time
though,
show.
I think Big Amish is a youngin', right? I mean, I think he's in his
he knows
early 20s. I believe in the chat here, he's like, hey, guys, AOTC's one of my favorites because that's the first movie I ever saw in the theater. You know, so he's probably a youngin' when that came out. So, I mean, he was probably a baby when KOTOR dropped, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in your 20s now,
but yeah, Nick's right. It's still no excuse to you. You should have played it by now. Big Amish.
No, it is available in so many different places. Like Matt said, you can get on your phone you can literally get on your phone for like $5.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, he's a union electrician. I'm sure you get some breaks throughout the day. Throw it on your phone and just get some quest time in between shifts.
He says, I've been planning on buying them and just playing on my laptop for a while now. I just haven't had the time. Matt just addressed that, union breaks. That being said, no matter what it happens to be, I'll be playing it. I'll be playing the OGs first.
Good
so
man.
He's gonna before the new one comes out, he's gonna play the originals. There you go. That's a good call. J Moore 3000, I know he was in the chat earlier. He says, definitely not a remake. There's very little they could do to improve the originals, especially KOTOR 1. Let's get some new storylines going.
So he's Nick Jr.
Definitely not in terms of storytelling. Like, I wouldn't say to like go back and remake it and like tweak anything in the story. Like, keep the same dialogue lines, keep the same everything.
Just visuals, man. That's all I want. Just visuals.
Yeah, just visual update, maybe a tweak to the combat system. Here's the thing, though, is that you're likely going to have to re-record voice lines.
Yeah.
Like, you would have to re-record
I was gonna
all
say,
the
you probably
dialogue.
have to redo all the audio.
Yeah, but just keep everything the same. Just do an update to it. So not really changing anything. But he wants new storylines as well. And then from our official PR person, I want to break this to you, Spencer, because you are now an official Star Wars Time employee. You can't be included in the fan segment.
We'll still talk about you. Don't worry. I'll yell about something.
You're no longer a fan. You are an employee. So your opinion does not count.
You're a volunteer. We don't pay.
There we go.
Yeah, so, write it off on your taxes or some shit.
Yeah, the last time you will ever be included in the fan segment. So Spencer says, I heard that
I literally just skipped this question. I was like, fuck it.
Nope.
Go ahead. Give him his due.
So he says, reworking. He said, I heard they had discussed reworking them together into a story for current canon. I'd rather just
2-2. Read it like you wrote it.
Yeah, I'd rather.
This is our PR person, by the way.
Reworks. Where they can keep what they can and update the graphics. Tell as much of the same story as possible. I don't think that they're going to do that. I don't know where you heard. I don't know if that was like one of the leakers or somewhere out there on Reddit. It is heavily doubtful that they're going to take both games and then just squish them together and combine them into one. It wouldn't work because your main characters are different.
They weren't really even connected, were they? Like KOTOR 1 and 2 weren't even really connected, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think that there was any direct connection between them. It was just you're working in the same era
the same
time.
Sandbox mechanics and whatnot, but it's not like clearly you're no longer playing Revan. You're just a no name.
Yeah, you're your own protagonist, but I don't think that they would do that.
It's all we can ask is for you to try, because we're not like Yoda. We're not like Yoda. We're not going to give you the do or do not. There is no try. Trying's okay.
You can Yeah, you can try. It will be interesting to see if they do choose to do the KOTOR 2, though, because that is largely an overlooked game. And while the narrative isn't as good as KOTOR 1, it's still
Nick,
very good.
I've only played that once and never have gone back, and I'm not saying I hated it. It would have been right when Matt was becoming a real adult and having corporate America gigs and whatnot. So, I played it, enjoyed it, and then that was it. I do want to go back to it. I mean, I still have the Xbox disc, and I know it will load in my Xbox. Yeah,
and now you inevitably see KOTOR 2 characters in everyday life because of SWTOR. You're seeing either Scion, Nihilus, Trey, or something like that. So I think that one does equally deserve a remake as well.
I'm all for a remake, remaster. But like you, I mean, there's clearly a huge potential for brand new. Brand new is going to suck in everybody. It's going to suck in people like us, but it's also going to capture the attention of your core gamer at this point in time.
Yeah. Last one here from Cavern Angels Leader. He says, I just wanted to not ruin Darth Revan and to be able to fly the Ebenhoff. So if it's a remake or remaster, remaster, you're fine. They probably won't touch Revan. Or the story around him will not change. The only way that they would really have the ability to ruin him is if they did like a reboot. Like, if they were to say like, hey, we're going to use the same characters, but we're going to kind of reboot it and tell like a similar story with some differences.
I don't even want that. Like I said, remaster or bust or brand new. You don't try to... Yeah. This is KOTOR 1 is a game that does not need any fixing outside of the dated visuals, period.
I mean, if you go to any
Blaine.
any video game website, and look at their like top 100 games of all time list, KOTOR is guaranteed to be on every one of them. Like if you have a video game website that doesn't have KOTOR, at least in their top 100, if not their top 50 of all time,
and I know that's an opinion and we shouldn't say that, but it's a fact at that point. You're just dumb.
Yeah, I mean, that game literally revolutionized single player storytelling in a way that had never been done before.
But you did have a good point. If it is going to a smaller, lesser named studio, it could very well be the old remaster approach because it's less resources, less money. You're still going to get a return on your investment at that point. So,
oh yeah, you figure if you're doing a full-fledged follow-up, you're going to give it to a studio that has some sort of reputation behind it for being a good storyteller or a good game mechanic builder or something like that. So we'll see. Again, the con circuit, quote unquote con circuit, would be coming around in the beginning to middle of 2021 if there is a con circuit, likely to be online again. So we may hear something at that point. But again, right now, all we know is that it's in development somewhere.
I would hope by June, when the E3 usually drops in whatever format they do it this season, we're getting something on this, but more importantly, more on the actual Lucasfilm announcements. They didn't put that announcement out early January just for fun. There is a plan in 2021. Yeah. They're either gonna fucking blow our socks off. They're like, yo, that Ubisoft game, by the way, it's been in development for 3 years and it's dropping holiday 2021. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I also wouldn't be surprised if you're like, well, yeah, this is it. We've been building it. It looks great, but it's down the road type of game.
Yeah, I mean, really, you haven't had a full-fledged, full AAA title release since fucking Fallen Order. Like, that was the last one. And
we're already talking well over a year at this point.
Yeah, that was November 2019.
The way the game industry goes, there's a good chance either that KOTOR shit we're talking about or Ubisoft's game has been cranking for a year or more. And we could, exactly. I'd love to get that Ubisoft game as a surprise in 2021. I don't think that's going to happen. And a part of me is okay with that because being someone that did adopt the new consoles, there has to come a point in time where developers are like, okay, enough's enough. we're only going to start building our games for the new stuff. Fuck the old stuff. And we've seen what happens when you try to dip your toe into too many generations of machines with Cyberpunk. This time more than ever, like, technology is increasing so much. Devs can't fuck around anymore. You can't say, I'm making a mega AAA game like Cyberpunk, but I'm going to develop it for the Xbox, the Series X, the PC. No. It happens every generation. They essentially just make the decision like, no, that's it. The Xbox One, we're not developing new games for you. PS4 games, you're done. You got all this old stuff. Have fun with your nostalgic consoles. So there is a part of me that would prefer if they just are designing this game for next gen only, which would mean that it's probably a 2022-23 drop.
Mm-hmm. I would hope so. I mean, I don't want there to be, and look, it also comes down to a numbers point for the developer or for the manufacturer, because if they're seeing like, all right, early adoption for Xbox Series X is slow, so we don't want to have too many exclusives over here because we know that people won't buy them. Like, it's all about where you see, when you start to see that shift in market share. And then once the Series X and the PS5 have
the data scientists, they've got their charts, they've got their their fucking Scrum meetings, they'll figure it out. But there is a time, and always, at least for us console people,
it's usually a year to a year and a half.
It's a weird time period where you're not really getting the best experiences on the new machine because motherfuckers are still developing ports for the old stuff, and Cyberpunk is the absolute proof in the pudding of what that can do to a game and the vision of the developer. It can destroy it. Yeah. I need to get back. I've gotten the point in Cyber, Nick, where I'm on the last act, but I think I'm going to save that for the actual next gen patch.
I was gonna ask you about that.
I do want to realize some of the game in what it should look like on the Series X. I do.
Yeah, because they've announced now that it's like mid to late this year, right? So
I took a break this weekend, and I'm still taking advantage of the Xbox Game Pass, which so far really has been quite useful and entertaining. But I fired up the Gears Tactics, which is just fantastic. It's Gears of War XCOM. If you like the XCOM, that type of strategy, turn-based, but with the Gears mantra, fantastic.
Nice.
All right, man. It's that time, right? It is time for this week's Top 5 Star Wars Fan Artist Features, and it is a top 1 week. So I got to play a little bit, but as always, Nick is the curator of the top 5. I just throw them out there throughout the week on our Instagram account. Remember, if you want to get featured, if you want to possibly make the top 5 or a top 1, just like I told Blainerthings earlier, you got to @ Star Wars Time Show and then use the hashtag Star Wars Time Show. And it's not so much because we're narcissists and think we're one of the better feature pages out there. We know that. So that isn't narcissism. It's we really just want to see all of your Star Wars creations, because otherwise we do not, thanks to the algorithm. We could follow every one of you motherfuckers and still not see any of your work. So keep the tags and the hashtags, and that's how you can go down in infamy by making one of Nick's top 5 Star Wars Artists of the Week features.
There we go. And this week, I got to say, this week is a really killer week. I don't know if it was just people are, like Matt had a bunch of really fantastic.
Remember, Nick,
I'm over the break.
I am operating right now. We're going to be getting a mix of shots from December.
Yeah, I was going to say,
plus new ones.
These are
I do have a system, but I typically, at this point, we're at 260 large in the 2 feature folder for Instagram, and it dates back to mid-December at this point, all the way up till January 26th.
Well, there we go. I mean, and these shots are just, all of these are top quality. I love them all. Not that any other top 5 week is low quality, but these are, I really like all of these. I got strong feelings here. And this first one here is from @galactic_correspondence. and it's a shot unlike anything I've ever seen before in terms of the focus. So like we've seen shots like this where it is a kind of a silhouetted view
it's
of
a
soldiers
silhouette
on
shot
a battlefield.
for sure. I mean, it's all the subjects. All you can see are their outlines, and everything else they're essentially shadows.
But what the focus is it's B1 battle droids, and forever you've essentially said that B1 battle droids are basically they're bots. They have personalities to a degree from the Clone Wars series, but they're Roger Rogers. They don't really show emotion. But this shot from Galactic Correspondence perfectly gives these B1 battle droids a sense of emotion and a sense of alive. Individualism.
Right. They do feel like even more modified Grievouses, where there is a meat sack in there. There is an organic being, but their whole shell is bionic, robotic, whatever. This is, to me, Nick, this is where the hobby becomes true art. It's all art to me, but I mean, this is like an art piece, a painting, something you'd hang up. It could be one of those motivational posters almost, right? Where there's like one word, like loss or perseverance, because that's what the droids, that's what they're emitting, I guess, or emanating from the picture. And I don't know, Galactic Correspondence excels at these type of shots.
It's a perfect, like, his name and his focus, like his type of photography meshes so perfectly, because this looks like a wartime picture. Like this Galactic Correspondent is sitting,
you're right,
at
Nick.
the bottom
it is.
of the
It's
hill.
like he's a news person there, a wartime photographer. Embedded with the Separatists or embedded with a Republic cell, and he's capturing the horrors of war. So
and I love, if you scroll through his feed, that is exactly like he takes on that persona. Like one of his shots it's like a magazine cover, news from the front. Yeah. And then if you scroll down a little bit farther, you see the war on Malastare.
It is. I mean, he just fully bought into this persona of being a correspondent. I mean, currently reporting from Surler. Breaking news will continue to be reported from Urbana, Geonosis, Naboo, etc. Like fully embracing the idea that Galactic Correspondence is a wartime photographer during the Clone Wars.
Dude, I love it, man. And if you click into, and this is another guy who gives you stories along with the shots. If you click into any one of his pictures, like this one here, part 1, close encounter with reptilian rebels in the outer streets of Ukata, the old town. Like, and then he goes on to give you, like, each shot will give you more information about where they are, where things are happening. And I really enjoy the account and the way
they
that
also use
the owner
like random figures. I mean, if you go a few shots down, he's got a bunch of Dougs, like Sebulba aliens. Yeah, it's like where's that even come from? But it's awesome. It's Star Wars. They're together. It's war. You got the Three Eyes here. I forget what those aliens are called. Grands.
That's
no, it is excellent. A great page to follow. Like I said, just fully embraces the idea of being a wartime photographer during the Clone Wars in the Star Wars galaxy. So
yeah, definitely give him a follow.
I mean, severely underfollowed account, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially for the amount of work and the creativity that he's putting in, not only for the shots themselves, but for the stories
the narrative.
that he's
So
telling.
come on, the tens of Star Wars time showers. If you're not following yet, hit them up at Galactic _correspondence. And if it is a female, I'm sorry, hit them up. How's that?
Yes, hit them up. Next up, we have a fantastic
and they
shot
changed their name.
So
go ahead, keep going. I'm going to find the real name. Go ahead.
I would say, so we did share it from A. Dominguez Lavin, but he has since changed his name to something else, and we don't know what it is yet. There. So, but what we see is a fantastic portrayal of the battle between Ahsoka and Darth Vader on Malastare 5 or Malachor 5. Matt was talking about that last week from Rebels.
Is at Jedi _Knight _inside. So Jedi Knight inside with underscore separating the words.
There we go. Jedi Knight inside. And the shot is, I mean, it perfectly captures not only the atmosphere and the essence of Malachor 5 that we saw in Rebels, but it also is it's posed so well because it's when Ahsoka's like jumping up towards Vader, sabers ignited behind her, and then Vader's just kind of looking up,
waiting for it.
It's a perfect snapshot of a moment from this fight.
Well, I always know him as a Domingo, but Jedi Knight inside. I mean, it's kind of his style. Is lots of different colored light, lots of atmosphere in there. Kind of razzing out the lightsabers, making them look a little unstable. It's a very eye-catching shot. Great, love the colors, like you said, the pose, and just going through this episode again. This is the Twilight of the Apprentice dual episode arc in season 2 of Rebels. Some of the best Star Wars content out there. And this is when Ahsoka finally allows herself to accept the fact that Vader, this horrible being she's been hearing about for Ahsoka for almost 15 years at this point. She finally lets herself believe that it's Anakin. Because she nicks his mask and sees his face, and he almost snaps out of it for a second, but I mean, he's too far gone at this point, and he goes to try and kill her, and then all shit hits the fan, and here we go. Enact the world between worlds, Ezra.
Yeah, it's I love this shot. This was really the one in the whole bunch that caught my eye the most because it is such a poignant.
It's another one like Galactic's. It's very artsy feeling, and I don't want to discount anyone else. All of you motherfuckers make art. Some just look like art pieces, wall hangers. I know I'm flailing right now, but it just whatever. You know what the fuck I'm saying? Yeah,
just put it on big pieces of paper so we can purchase. Yeah. All right. Next up, we got one of our favorites, good buddy at Papa Palpatine Photography, and it's a signature Papa shot. It is badass Boba Fett, Neo Boba Fett, in Matt's opinion, just killing, not even killing.
Well, hold on. Let's be real, Nick. If we use the term, it is new Boba Fett.
It is.
So Neo, yes, it is not my opinion. It is truth. This is Papa's specialty here. Just brutality.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that, Nick. He's got the one trooper's head. His neck's already snapped.
Completely.
I
was gonna say completely just turned.
It's snapped in half. I mean, it's so bust. This dude's neck is so busted. He's looking behind himself right now, as Boba extends forward with his lovely little, Scottish kilt these days. Right. He's got that man skirt on. Just one-handed blown away another trooper with his blaster rifle. Like Nick said, it's vintage Triple P.
Yeah, it is.
Look at all the dead bodies everywhere, like all the carcasses. I mean, you can just see Neo Boba showed up and made these troopers' days very, very terrible.
Exactly.
Just was not a good day. I mean, and the beauty of Papa a lot of times is it's really no frills. He does his dios. By the way, both Papa and 1/6 shooter got featured on Hasbro's Fan First Friday last week, Nick. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh,
but
shit.
I got my, I belong to the Hasbro Pulse. I got an email, and lo and behold, it's like, hey, go check out this tutorial from Papa Palpatine, and go check out this tutorial from 1/6. So congrats, guys. That's pretty awesome. But in the article,
that's amazing. Papa
pretty much said, like, listen, I was kind of into design and this stuff, but to me, what toy photographers need to know and get good at, it's the posing. But what he said first, I thought he was going to say posing because that's his specialty. He said it's lighting. Lighting is what he considers to be the biggest key to creating a great toy shot. And he definitely kicks ass at lighting and the posing and the setups and the ideas. So he's got it all. He's got it all, even though he's saying, lighting, that's really my biggest focus. Now, Papa
Maybe he's the next guy that we got to target for an interview.
I've asked him to come on. Like, I think it was last year when things got a little squirrely in here about opinions offline. I'm like, hey, dude, you know, if you want to come on and chat, let's do it. But didn't take us up on it. So who knows? We got our PR guy. I mean, he has a list. Yeah. He's working through some actual stars. Not that Blaine's not a star. He's a star in our world. But I'm talking like Star Wars royalty. As like, hey,
yeah, he's currently chatting with Hayden Christensen's
He'll
agent.
do it. I mean, that's why we brought him. I mean, you need people like that in PR. I mean, let's be real. If you're in PR, you have to be a bit annoying. You have to be a bit of a pest because you're going to get a lot of shit thrown at you, but you also more or less have to put out a lot of shit to kind of get into people's worlds, convince them to do things they may not want to do and all that fun stuff. But yeah, at any time, we'll just based on the feedback we got today from having Blaine on and Michael a month ago, we're trying to do more of the interviews. I mean, I'd love to say we'll do one a month. Doing them every week, I don't know if I can handle that. A little too much stress for me. Just the technical shit, to be honest with you. But
and then it kind of extends the show out a little bit as well.
Well, we're at our 3-hour mark. We probably would have done about. I think it was just you and I. We still would have done 2.5. So
yeah.
Anyways, we're rounding home. We're at the fun part here. So home. At Papa Palpatine Photography, you know him. Give him a follow. If you're not following him, correct it.
Correct that mistake. Next up, we got at Bud Futu here, and this was one of the early accounts that Matt told me about. I was like, hey, if you wanna really learn something about toy photography, see what this is about, go follow Bud Futu.
This guy's a master.
And what we got here is an incredible setup in general. Like he has essentially built out an entire
that's all real,
town
by the way.
Tatooine.
Like he creates all those dioramas and he sells them. I mean, so make sure to look at Bud Futu. But if you are into getting really high-end looking practical dioramas, check out his at Blue Harvest Studios account. I believe he is taking commissions these days because hopefully he's listening, or he can correct us in a comment. I believe he's been either stuck in Thailand or working in Thailand for almost a year now during all this lockdown stuff, and has used that time to get back to producing high-end Star Wars dioramas and taking commissions from people. So check that stuff out. But back to his shot that Nick selected. It really does. I mean, it looks like a fucking scene from the set of A New Hope or Mandalorian, whatever.
Somewhere, but what you see is an entire, squadron of stormtroopers walking into a Tatooine town, kind of in formation, so in line, and then you just have it. It's literally like a slice of this city in this moment. So you see like two Jawas like peering around a corner. You see a Jawa with a bantha right there on the side. But then right there on the edge, you see a little R2-D2 kind of on the left-hand side of the image. And, walking over towards, it looks like Boba Fett standing in the doorway of this building they're walking towards. He hides a lot of these awesome little Easter eggs in these shots, and it really kind of brings it to life. Like this does look like a snapshot from a moment in time.
Like if I had a dream scenario out there for this hobby, this guy would live next to me, right? And I would I would do his test shots or something. So I'd get to experience every creation he makes without buying it, or I would buy it. I'd be more than happy to pay money for this type of stuff. But this to me is the type of photography I love, is the practical stuff. Everything is existing in the real world. You snap it in your camera, and outside of maybe tweaking some brightness or color tones, that's the shot. I'm blown away by what people like Blainerthings. Work more or less, Black Series, Plastic Action, when they incorporate the practical with the hardcore digital. But Bud Futu is probably the master of pure practical sets, backgrounds, and setups.
Yeah, just absolutely incredible work. Having all of this in camera is just crazy to think about. Like it's literally like every time he does a shot, he's rebuilding scenes exactly how they did it when they were filming like A New Hope or fucking, you know, when they were using the actual miniatures to build out those scenes in the original trilogy. It's incredible. Beautiful stuff. All right. Next up, the last for the top 5 is going to be Germano_518. And we get a really cool kind of Mando.
I like Grogu's arms. He's like, wee.
Hey! Mando and Grogu taking off. Mando's got his jetpack just shooting away from some scene. And it's just like a cool, it's almost like an Iron Man shot that you would see in a movie where like he takes off and you see it from the top and then he kind of like flies past the camera. But it's with Din and Grogu. And I just thought it was a really cool, you know, capture of these two, the little baby and the papa as they're flying away from a battle scene. And like you said, the Grogu with his arms out, it totally fits that, you know, his personality, just like he was on the speeder bike. He was like, yay, having fun. I can imagine that he's, you know, having a real good time when Papa Din takes off with his jetpack.
Yeah, no, it's a quality shot, and I do think it's practical in nature. The explosion is, at least. And this is the figure arts Din, always looks nice and shiny, so good looking figures. But for some reason, he used the Black Series Grogu with figure arts Din, which, hey, it's fine. That's an artistic choice. But it's nice and vibrant, nice and crisp, clear. To me, I always, anything Grogu and his buddy Din typically warms my heart and will get itself put into the 2-feature folder. But to me, it really is just the little guy, just like, he's putting his arms out, kind of getting ready to do the Superman fly up into the sky. Yeah, yeah. So it was just a fun, you know, almost like a father-son shot of the two Mando buddies. So that closes out our top 5 at Germano_518. That's the last one for our top 5. And then Matt, you had the top 1 this week. So tell us who we got and what we got. It is a top 1 week, so thanks for letting me play, Nick. That's always kind of you. Yeah. I went with Force Dad Photography. He, in my opinion, is one of the best Star Wars 375 photographers, meaning the smaller scale figures, which will have less articulation. Not so much these days, but typically in the past, they also had just less details in the face sculpt, but they actually are getting quite nice at this size. But Force Dad almost exclusively shoots in this size, and the shot we're looking at, he recreated the epic moment from the final season, or the final episode. Oh, please never say that again, Matt. The final season of Mandalorian. No. Jesus, that's some bad juju to put out there into the world. But it's one of the final shots of the final episode of season 2 of the Mando. Luke's arrival, but it's a picture at the 3.75-inch scale of Jedi Knight Luke doing the Force choke on a Dark Trooper. And Nick, these Dark Troopers are 3D printed and styled by Force Dad himself. Those aren't actual figures that you can buy. So he actually printed a bunch of these. He printed the hallway, like the hallway he built. It's all practical. And then obviously the scene I'm talking about, it's not Luke slicing and dicing. It's when he taps into Anakin's favorite thing to do as Vader, when he breaks out the Force choke fist and just crushes that Dark Trooper to hell and back. And it just, I don't know, it's just, Force Dad's another one that is very generous with his setups. He does a lot of behind the scenes. He's a guy I remember years ago, I used to hit up and be like, hey man, how do you do the lightsaber effect? Or what apps do you use? This is a guy that turned me on to Affinity for iPad, and I still use that to this day. Because to me, it's not as clunky. It's written in a way that my dumb design brain can somewhat understand what the hell all the controls are. Yeah. But I've always been a fan of Force Dad because of A, his ability to create the scenes, B, to literally build them with his own hands or a 3D printer, and C, he's obviously quite good at photography and the post-processing aspects of the hobby. Yeah. It's crazy too. He like put in like shuttering, like ghosting of the image to show that like the Dark Trooper. Oh yeah, I'm just realizing that now. Good pickup. Yeah.
yeah, like down by the gun. It's like he put motion into it that way, which was fucking really cool. And then yeah, just knowing that this is all like essentially everything that you see in this frame, or most of it, is like created by him. The Dark Trooper, the hallway setup, and everything else. Like that is super impressive.
Yeah. And Nick, the figures are so small they would fit in the palm of your hand. Like they're only like we've always said, right around the size of my wiener, which isn't big. Like that's to me like being someone that plays with the Barbies to the 112 and has a few of these. That to me is the most impressive. Or when these Star Wars 375 photographers can take just these tiny little things that don't quite bend like the bigger figures do and make them look like bigger figures. Sometimes in the case of Force Dad, like actual real living things. Yeah, that is I'm on his page now, just flipping through some of his work, and it's just always quality looking stuff.
Yeah, and crazy how good this looks at that scale.
Look at that Maul. I love Maul. No shirt Maul with his crazy spider legs. But yeah, that was my top one. Force Dad Photography, at Force Dad Photography. As I said, I'm sure he still is, but used to be very generous if you have questions. He does a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and these days, as I mentioned, he's gotten into 3D printing and essentially building out his own figures and sets, and it has definitely enhanced his work. Damn, look at that small scale Din. I mean, the small scale Din looks better than the 112. I'm looking. I'm on his page now, Nick. But yeah, great follow out there at Force Dad Photography.
There we go, and that closes out our top 5 plus 1 for the week, and it closes out our show. Thank you again to Blainerthings for coming on and joining us for well over the time that you needed to.
Hell, I think he even stayed for an extra 30, 40 minutes as we droned on about all the other nonsense we talk about on an episode of the Star Wars Time Show. But as Nick said, it's time to say goodbye. All right, I'm going to go get my sweater vest and a change of shoes, sing a little song, and walk out of my house. Anyone else ever wonder where the fuck Mr. Rogers used to go at the end of an episode? Like, why did he have to leave his own house?
Maybe he's got a mother-in-law suite in the back. He's just going to hang out with his mom.
I think Mr. Rogers is the only thing that prevented me from being a complete scumbag human. Because I think I have that potential. It's in the bloodline. There's no doubt about it. It's in the Haywood bloodline, especially with the males. But I think it's Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers that taught me to not be a piece of shit.
Hey, that's good. Good that he was there then.
Welcome to the Mr. Rogers Show. All right, friends, it's time to go to bed. Let's put this episode, what is it, episode 146, stick a fork in it. We got through another interview. It was successful. The first time we did a 3-person live stream. Now that I've got that, under my belt, I'll feel much more comfortable scheduling more of these, Nick. So I will let you continue to do interviews. Because for the most part, it was I didn't want to deal with the tech setup, and a lot of times it would be scheduling type of stuff. But now that we got the tech shit figured out, and I don't know, I'd imagine it sounded somewhat okay through the stream. I'm hoping it did because I'm relying on the stream audio for the audio version tomorrow because I definitely didn't record my stem, and I didn't tell Nick to record his stem, but he probably did because he is a good boy. He did. So so basically the show, if you're audio only, I apologize. It's going to sound a little more tinny than I typically like to put forth on our audio platforms of the Star Wars Time Show, which, Nick, guess what? You can find out which audio platforms we are on, podcasting platforms, if you will, by going over to StarWarsTime.net. Subscribe to podcast. It's up there in the top or the hamburger menu if you are on mobile. From there, you'll see all the platforms, and they are bountiful. iTunes, or these days just Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Android, Pandora, iHeart, Stitcher, TuneIn, Deezer, RSS. You can get the shit emailed to you. There's no excuse to get looped into the Star Wars Time Show if you like this type of content. And if you don't, go to hell, right? That's what we say. That is our mantra here. If you don't like us, we don't like you either. But in all seriousness, StarWarsTime.net is our home. It's where you can get the content that we're typically going to be talking about on our weekly show, which we do on Tuesdays. usually in between the hour of 2 and 3 p.m. East on YouTube. YouTube, you say? Yes, the Star Wars Time Show is on YouTube. You can also find the Star Wars Time Show on YouTube by going to starwarstime.net. Or these days, I think we have enough shit vomited out into the internet. You should be able to just start typing Star Wars Time Show, and I think most of our content will pop up. But we need those subs on YouTube. We're in 700. Let's get to 1,000. Let's make 2021 an even bigger growth year for the SWTS than it was in 2020. And a lot of you that sit in this stream, we know you helped drive that growth. But it's Matt. It's not enough. I'm going to keep asking for your dedication, your loyalty. Stomp for the Star Wars Time Show. It does pay off. We may have gained a new fan today in Blainerthings. I hope so. I hope he had a good time. It was fun talking to him. And usually if you go for 2 hours and it doesn't feel 2 hours, that implies that you were somewhat enjoying it. So hopefully Blaine joins up and maybe he'll start bringing other people. But that's how this happens. We're just two dudes in basements, not our mother's basements, but in our own basements. Or I'm in a basement. He's not in a basement because they don't have basements in Texas. But we're just two dudes. We don't have a backing of a corporation behind us. We don't have Patreons taking your money. All we ask is if you like this shit, tell other people, trick other people. Don't waterboard them, but other forms of torture to get them to listen to it. Just one time. Just one time might be enough to garner the next hardcore Star Wars Time Show superfan. If you are a super fan, don't forget to join our Discord. It's active all week long, not always with Nick and I, but with the what we like to call the fandos, the assholes, the super troopers, the super duper SWTS fans. It's a good time, and you never know, Tones might start getting a little sexual with his memes, give you some something to talk about at dinner with the wife. You just do not know what you're going to get in the Star Wars Time Show Discord. So give it a follow. You can. I think the easiest way, Nick, is just going to our Instagram account at Star Wars Time Show and hitting the link tree for that.
Yes.
And the reason we want you to do all this is because I know Nick knows, and the fandos know, there's always time for Star Wars time. There really is. We had Star Wars time today with Blaine, then we did our own Star Wars time thing because there's always time for this galaxy that we all love that may not be real, but in our minds and hearts it is. And remember, if you listen to the Star Wars Time Show, this thing right here, the Force will be with you always.